Let's get it. 580 Sports Talk coming at you on a Tuesday. Hi, hello, and how are you? Hope you are enjoying your Tuesday afternoon, and thank you for tuning in to us here on 580 Sports Talk. Again, today at our new time, 3 to 6 every day. Thanks for being with us as we get underway here on 580 WIBW, FM 104.9, online at 580WIBW.com, and on our video stream, both on Facebook, WIBW News, and on our YouTube channel, 580 Sports Talk. However you're consuming the show, we appreciate you being along for this Tuesday edition. Lots to get to in the next 3 hours. A disappointing Royals loss in their series opener against Minnesota. One bad inning really cost Brady Singer and the Royals last night. We will discuss Singer's performance and whether or not it points to a broader trend for the veteran right-hander against the better teams on the Royals' schedule. We'll also talk about tonight's game. We'll take a look ahead at tonight's matchup. I have not yet seen who the Twins are starting. And
I think it's that Zebby Math.
Zebby. Is it the kid? Is it the kid they just called up?
Zebby. I think so.
Yes, it is. It is confirmed by Twins.com. Zebby Matthews making his major league debut.
Who Jeff Passan, he was expected to be called up today, and Jeff Passan said, elite stuff, great command. He has like 117 strikeouts in AAA and only like 20 walks.
So in his minor league career, my guy Zebby has struck out 232 batters in 205 and a third innings. That's very good. And he has walked 22 guys.
Yeah, so
he's throwing strikes, folks.
Yeah.
Get in the box and get ready for some strikes.
So you already know that rookie pitchers who come up always dominate the Royals, but this guy's actually going to because he's actually good.
So I have seen Zebby Matthews pitch.
Oh, we going to get an eyewitness scouting report?
I have seen him throw when he was, let me see if I can find his game log here. When he was in Double-A this year, because he's pitched in both Double and Triple-A this year. He is rocketing up the, through the farm system for Minnesota to get where he is now. I saw him, let me go find what day that was. Yeah, he was pretty decent for Wichita for the Wind Surge against the Midland Rockhounds, if I remember correctly, back on June 15th, Grady Dick Day. 3 runs in 6 innings, was really good at the start of the game, struck out 7. Dude throws cheddar. It is not easy to hit. He sort of just lost it at the end of that game. All the runs against him came late. The Rockhounds had no idea what to do with him the first few innings of that game. So yes, I was very impressed, and I was joking with my wife on the way to the game. I hope we get to see Zebby today because I love that his name is Zebby, and then we did, and then he was awesome.
What do you think Zebby's short for?
Zebediah.
Let's find out. It is short for his middle name.
Is that Zebediah?
Nope. His name is Daniel Zebulon Matthews.
Wow.
Is he from Colorado? Does he have any tie to Zebulon Pike?
No tie to Zebulon Pike, but he is from North Carolina.
L. Ron Hubbard ass name.
You Google Zebulon. There's a town of Zebulon, North Carolina.
Oh.
So, he got that going for him, which night. Anyway, that is way more Zebby Matthews than I thought we were going to get to at the very top of this program. Though. Yeah, well, he will be making his debut tonight against the Royals. Seth Lugo on the bump for KC. Again, pregame coverage right at the top of the 6 o'clock hour. First pitch at 6:40 from Target Field. Plenty of Royals talk today. Also talk some Chiefs. We'll have some audio from Matt Nagy and Kingsley Suamataia from after practice today. And Nate Taylor of The Athletic made his Chiefs roster projections yesterday at The Athletic. And 2 things in particular really jumped out to me. We'll talk about the other things that really stood out from Nate Taylor's projections. Again, he's in St. Joe every day observing practice, and he's got a different perspective. And one position in particular that he is more bearish on than I anticipated. And so we will discuss that in great detail later on in the show. No Jayhawk Weekly with Michael Swain today. Michael has a prior commitment, so he cannot join us, but we will talk some KU football, some K-State football as well. Joe Klanderman spoke at K-State camp today. We'll hear a little bit of what Joe Klanderman had to say about his defense and some of the players on it. That is coming up later on in the show. Of course, Mitch Holthus is joining us throughout training camp every day for a training camp report brought to us by Hy-Vee and by Azure Credit Union. We'll talk to the voice of the Chiefs coming up at 5:25. Plus, all of the things you've come to know and love from 580 Sports Talk. We will have some Random Question Tuesday today. 2 more news stories on what is wrong with you, sports headlines at the top of the 5 o'clock hour, and so much more. I'm Dan Lucero, Brendan Dworzinski, and Spencer Dupuis in studio. Trenton Kraxner, our short-timer summer intern across the glass, as our producer engineer.
Spencer Dupuis in studio in spirit. He is in the building that houses the studio.
So he showed up mid-segment yesterday and just started talking, and we had not had a chance to properly introduce him. Here's how I figure it. I'm just going to tell people he's here. Okay. So if he does come in and chime in, then the people listening in Radio Land are none the wiser. And the people watching us on the YouTube feed, they saw him come in. So they expect to hear from him.
That's true.
So either way, it's a delicate dance. But folks on the YouTube, when I say that Spencer Dupuis is here, even when he's not, just go with it. All right. Just know that empty chair on the video stream is going to be filled very shortly. Just roll with us on this one is what I'm asking. You too can watch the show, watch us on video, watch our mouths move while we make these words. Again, the YouTube channel is 580 Sports Talk. And if you're watching the show on YouTube, you can interact in the live chat with other listeners and, of course, your hosts. So check us out in the YouTube stream. Again, that's 580 Sports Talk, the channel. You can also watch the video on our Facebook page if you'd rather use Meta. That's WIBW News, our Facebook page. You can also interact with us on the Top City Metal Supply text line. That number is 785-272-9429, 785-272-9429.
Hey, since we're talking baseball to start the show, congrats to your Rockies. Big day yesterday. Really impressive day.
Was it?
Yeah, they're no longer alone. They are no longer the only team to allow double-digit runs to the White Sox this year. That is now the New York Yankees, who actually have allowed more runs in a single game to the White Sox.
Say it with me
this year.
Say it with me. Southside, stand up. He didn't even say it last night. What a disappointment.
The Rockies lost a game. They led 4-1 in the 7th inning last night because they allowed the go-ahead run, the tying and go-ahead runs to score in consecutive wild pitches in the 8th inning.
I like your little meltdown thread on the Diamondbacks. I thought that was very funny, personally. What was it like? What's his name? Like Mookie Blaylock or whatever was your starting pitcher last night? Was actually good though.
Yes, some guy I'd never heard of in my life, and he actually pitched well. And the Rockies bullpen took a dump because, of course, they did. And
Meltdown.
Then I said that the Diamondbacks should enjoy that win while it lasts because they'll be playing in Nashville when their stadium lease runs out, and their sad ballpark will become the Costco distribution center. It was always destined.
I thought it was very funny.
Honestly. I know you don't like the Diamondbacks. Was everything like good? There was a little extra vitriol behind that. I thought
I'm just tired.
Tough night.
I'm just tired of losing those bums, man.
Okay.
I can't stand that team.
Me with the Minnesota Twins, honestly.
They got like 6 fans. They're all leathery douches from Tucson who still think affliction shirts are cool in 2024. And they will flee the state when it becomes uninhabitable in 20 years because of climate change. And they will be 10 years after the Diamondbacks flee that state and their decrepit warehouse of a ballpark. So, yeah, I hate the Diamondbacks. But we're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about the Kansas City Royals, which may not be as much fun for you listening because the Royals game was not terribly enjoyable last night.
Might just rather hear you be mad.
The Royals lose last night, 8-3 the final score, had a 2-0 lead with 2 outs and nobody on in the bottom of the 2nd inning. And I'm watching the game thinking to myself, man, Brady Singer looks great. Brady's got the slider working. Brady's throwing the fastball by people. Brady Singer looks sharp. And then it went to hell in a 6-batter span. To review, it all started when he pitched to Carlos Santana like Carlos Santana was prime Babe Ruth and threw him 4 pitches nowhere close to the strike zone. I was like, okay, fine. Go get the right-hander Ryan Jeffers. Yeah, that did not work. Ryan Jeffers, on an 0-2 pitch, a slider that caught too much of the plate, base hit. Austin Martin, who has a very unique baseball player aesthetic. What did you say he looked like, Trenton?
Oh,
in the text thread last night?
I'll have to get the name right because I always forget the character's name. He looks like the character from Pirates of the Caribbean. Because did you see
Davy Jones?
No, not Davy Jones. Orlando Bloom's character. Or whatever.
Turner. Will Turner.
Yeah, Will Turner.
Okay.
Because he has like a man bun. He had the headband, and then he had like an earring hanging out, and like it's like, dude, are you Will Turner or a baseball player?
Not a lot of baseball players look like that. Like, not a lot of players watched Dodgeball, A True Underdog Story, and thought Steve the Pirate would be their like sartorial icon.
Another good comparison, honestly.
So Martin gets a base hit. I thought for sure Renfroe was going to throw Carlos Santana out trying to score, and then Renfroe spiked his throw from right field, and Vinny Pasquantino cut it off, which is the right play. But okay, fine, 2-1. No harm done. Just get Willie Castro out. Willie Castro hits one to the moon. 4-2 Twins. And then the next batter reaches base, and Royce Lewis hits one to the moon. And it's 6-2, and all the good vibes are gone. And now you're playing from, I mean, it's one thing to have been down 4-2. Like, we've seen the Royals handle 2-run deficits. Like, they handled one in their most recent game before on Saturday. But to go behind 6-2 and to have it all happen very suddenly, that was a tough thing for the Royals to rebound from, and as it happened, they never did. 8-3 again was the final score. I will give Brady Singer this. He did give the Royals 5 innings last night, and that's not nothing. When you're starting a road trip, game one of a road trip, game one of an important 3-game series, you don't want to tax the bullpen. So for Singer to be able to settle down and throw 3 scoreless innings after that, and at least give the Royals 5 innings so that they didn't have to dip too heavily into their bullpen. They only used Hernandez and Zerpa last night. Hernandez for 2 innings, who's probably at the very back of the bullpen right now. He's guy 8 out of 8 right now.
I'd prefer him over Stratton or Zerpa, though. I thought he looked good last night, personally. That's a debate for another time, though.
Gave up the 2 runs. Bobby Witt Jr. misplayed a ball. He got charged with an error, but that's a tougher play than it looks. That ball deep in the hole, you're trying to turn the double play on. You got to get the transfer quick, and he didn't get it right, which rare for Bobby Witt Jr. to make that mistake. But that opened up the floodgates for 2 runs in the 7th that really kind of ended the game.
Overrated?
He did homer in the first inning, Brendan, if you recall.
You're only as good as your last play. What have you done for me lately?
So Hernandez worked the 2, and then Zerpa, who needed like a no stress, low leverage outing, I think, to maybe get some confidence back. That was a good use of him, I thought, the 8th inning last night. So at least you've held your water. You kept your powder dry bullpen wise. So I'll give Singer credit for that. But a lot of people last night were pointing out Singer's numbers against good teams in playoff contention, and that they are much worse than his numbers against bad teams. And Trent, you did the research on this. You did the digging. You did the digging, and you found Brady Singer's performances against the good teams on the schedule as opposed to the non-contenders. And you found something to support that thesis.
Yeah, so over 14 starts. And I included the Rangers in here twice because the Rangers, when they played them, both series, they're still kind of in the race. I know they're 10 games under 500 now, but at the time, that's still a World Series defending champion. People thought they were going to turn it around. So over 14 starts, 2 against Minnesota, 2 against the Rangers, against Houston, 2 times against Boston, 2 times against the Rays, Cleveland, Milwaukee, the Yankees, the Dodgers, and the Mariners. He's thrown 72 innings, given up 83 hits, 38 runs, 34 of those earned. He's given up 12 home runs. 12 out of the 15 he's allowed this year have been against those teams. He's walked 21 batters and struck out 73. So you add that all up, that's a 4.25 ERA. Compare that to his season ERA of 3.32. So he's been very dominant against the non-playoff teams is what that tells me, if his ERA is that low. And so is he a bad team, Merchant? Like, is this acceptable for number 3 starter against playoff teams? Like, how do we feel about that?
And I know you have a rebuttal for this, but I want to preface real quick just by saying my worry here, among my many I have with Brady Singer, is it is a lot of excuses to make for a guy who is your number 3 starter, who has been good this year, who in terms of actual production has been good. But there are a lot of excuses that I think you kind of have to make for him. And I'm sorry, I know you had in addition here. Here, take the floor.
So
I can't land this plane. Take the floor.
No, you're fine. So yeah, he's had really good outings against lineups that don't have a lot of punch, right? 7 shutout innings against the Cubs, 7 1/3 innings, a 1-run ball against the Marlins. 7 innings of 1-run ball against the Rockies, 6 innings of 1-run ball against the A's. Those are 3 of the 4 worst teams in baseball, and the Cubs, who are Brendan will tell you all about how bad their
Not that
offense
far
is
away. Yeah.
if you give him a chance. Even against the Rangers, the defending champs, who are now sliding away into irrelevance, Singer turned in 2 good outings against them, 11 innings and only 2 runs allowed. When you get into the real playoff contenders, like, he was great against the Twins in March, and he was not good against them yesterday. So split the baby there and say, okay, he's had one really good start, one really bad start against the Twins. Gave up 3 runs in 6 innings, quality start against the Dodgers. Then the rest of his outings, 2 bad starts against the Red Sox. But what can the Red Sox do uniquely to Brady Singer that most other teams can't do?
Stack the left-hand batters.
Throw a bunch of lefties at him. And that has continued to be the Achilles heel for Brady Singer, is his performance against left-handed batters. The Yankees, they got any left-handed thump in their lineup?
Yeah, well, they got thump everywhere, but yeah.
They do. That's just a really good lineup. But, like, yeah, you got to deal with Juan Soto if you're Brady Singer. And that was probably before last night. That was Singer's worst start of the year. His 5 2/3, 7 runs allowed, 6 earned against the Yankees when he faced them back in June. The Guardians, he had a bad start against them, only lasted 3 2/3 innings. He was coming off illness. I'm giving him a pass for his outing against the Guardians. But again, Guardians are a team with some switch hitters and some left-handed power. It's all about, to me, the performance against lefties. Like, that's just the biggest thing to me. It's the thing that continues to stand out. Right-handed batters are OPSing 500 against Brady Singer. That's including the home run that Royce Lewis hit last night. That's just the 3rd home run in 252 plate appearances for right-handed batters against Brady Singer. Left-handers are OPSing 863 against Brady Singer. So, like, that's the ballgame. If you can run some left-handed batters out or switch hitters out there against Brady Singer, then you are going to make him sweat. You're going to make him work hard. And Brady Singer, once again last night, was a 2-pitch mix. He wasn't showing anybody a changeup, wasn't really showing anybody a 4-seam fastball. It was that 2-pitch mix. That's who he is. And that's going to be really effective against the lineups that can't match up against him very well. But the lineups that can throw some lefties against him, that can make him work and see him more often and know that he's just a 2-pitch guy, those are the lineups that are going to beat him up. And that's what Minnesota did last night.
For comparison's sake, if you want a reference point for an OPS of 863, that in and of itself, if an individual player had an OPS of 863 this year, they would have the 18th best in all of baseball. One player ahead would be Stephen Kwan. So essentially, every lefty against Brady Singer is Stephen Kwan, who, while he has petered out a bit since the break, still really good. Still top 20 in all of baseball in terms of offensive production.
And I know he didn't match up with this playoff team, either of the 2 series they played, but the Baltimore Orioles are another playoff team that they could run into in the playoffs that can stack the left-handed bats.
Yeah. No,
so, I mean, in that second inning,
and
all he was sinker slider.
Yeah.
And it's like Angel's, we had the conversation. I was there for, well, we know he's throwing 98 right down the middle, so we're going to dig in. Well, we can dig in too when we're going to be 50% right if he's throwing sinker slider. I think I texted you guys, he had like 52 pitches through the first 2 innings. 43 of them were sinkers or sliders.
Yeah.
I mean, you're guessing right one way or another.
And the more you see a guy, and the Twins see him on average twice a year because they're a division foe, the more you see a guy, the more you can get your timing down against him and probably guess right. If it's a coin flip chance, you got a chance to guess right and to do some damage against him. So, like I said, he steadied the ship. On balance, he's still having an excellent year. There are a lot of teams that would kill to have a 3rd starter as good as Brady Singer. There are teams in the playoff chase. There are teams ahead of the Royals right now who would love to have a number 3 starter as good as Brady Singer, who has been solid throughout this season. But I think it's less a problem with good teams, quote unquote, like he's not up for the moment, he's not the man for the occasion. I don't think it's that. I just think it's good teams are good because A, they have a bunch more good hitters, but B, they are able to match up in different ways against a guy. And these teams that can match up, that can put more left-handed batters in run scoring opportunities against Brady Singer, those are the teams that are going to do damage against him. And Boston was a perfect example of that. And last night he gives up the 3-run home run to Willie Castro, who's having a nice year, but he's not a big power guy. and got a slider down and in, and you better be real good with that pitch. If you're going to throw the slider as a right-hander to a left-handed batter, you got to bury it, because down and in, that's the nitro zone for a whole host of left-handers, even the ones that don't have a ton of power. That's where guys get to power from the left side, is that pitch down and in. And Brady Singer didn't locate that pitch well enough, and that was where the outing really drifted south on Brady last night. We're talking a little bit more Royals after this timeout, and coming up later this hour, we'll get mic'd up with Matt Nagy and Kingsley Suamataia from Chiefs camp earlier today. Also have some Random Question Tuesday on this first hour of the show. Lots more Chiefs to get to, including Mitch Holthus at 5:25. It's a jam-packed show today. We're excited to have you with us. Come back with us after this first time out from the Kansas Drive to Zero studio on 580 Sports Talk. $3.29 on 580 Sports Talk. Dan, Brendan, Spencer, Trent, and gang's all here on this Tuesday afternoon. Coming up in just a little bit, some choice cuts from Chiefs media availability earlier today. Some thoughts from Matt Nagy on some of the young offensive players for the Chiefs. And Kingsley Suamataia gives himself a grade of sorts for his first NFL action, all 6 snaps of it. Royals again, losers last night, 8-3, the final score. Christopher the Bard in the YouTube comments writes, KC's performance was stank. Brady surrendered 2 tanks. Offense went to a stall. Even Bobby muffed the ball. Still had a better night than the Yanks. Yeah, they did. Blown out by the White Sox.
I think it's the first time we've had stank in one of these limericks.
That's true.
What a great word.
The Bard is really, blazing new trails in poetry. Paul in the YouTube live chat points out that the Royals, after last night, are now officially right at 500 against the teams on their schedule who are not the White Sox. They're 12-1 against the White Sox, done playing them, 53-53 against the rest of their schedule.
I'll take it.
I listen, if you could sign up for that right now as a Royals fan, if you would say 500 the rest of the way, because that's going to get you 86, 87 wins.
Yeah, 43 games left.
43 games left. So let's say 21 wins get you to
85.
21 wins get you 85.
85 to 86.
No, 86. That would get you 86. They're 65 and 54.
Right, okay.
So they go 21 and 22, one game below 500 the rest of the way, and finish with 86 wins. If I offered you that right this second, Royals fans, would you take it?
Yes.
Yeah. Right, 86 wins right this second?
If I said 86 wins, I can guarantee you 86.
Especially considering the teams that they're playing the last 7 weeks.
Yeah, no, that's a fair point.
You can't choose when they come, but yeah, like some of those are going to be
massive,
impactful because of who you're playing. You get 7 games left against Cleveland. You got
5 more with the Twins.
5 more against Minnesota.
3 with the Yanks.
3 with Houston. They got 3
with Houston.
Yeah.
3 with Houston.
It's 4 with Houston.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they got a 4-gamer with Houston.
Okay, yeah, you're right.
3 with the Yanks and 3 with the Phillies. Like you're facing the best of the best.
Yeah, I think you would take if you were the Royals, you'd take 86 wins and you let the chips fall because I think that's going to be enough. I think 86 wins is at least the third wild card.
That last week is going to be rather interesting. What they do with the guys that are going to be starters, it should be a breeze of a week for them.
Why do you say that?
Because they're playing the Nationals, who are going to have nobody. They're going to have all these young guys on their team. Then they're playing the Phillies, who suck.
The Braves.
The
Braves. The Braves is the last game.
The Braves aren't going to make the playoffs.
Yeah, that's kind of surprising
because of their injuries.
Yeah, but
Braves are still in a wild card position right now. They're one game clear of a playoff spot. Yeah, I wouldn't write off that final week by any means.
I mean, the Royals are 2-4 at home against the Cubs and Rockies this year.
No,
hey, the Rockies. The Rockies
they're 1 and 2
Denver.
against the Rockies in Denver.
Oh, that was in Denver.
That was in Denver.
We're not that bad at home.
No, I do. I think, and we said it coming out, I think, of the last Chicago series is, look, you took care of business. You made your layups. You made your 2-foot putts against the worst team in baseball and went 12-1 against them. And that sets you up to where all you have to do is play 500 ball and you're in with a chance. That sets you up. And 500 ball is not a difficult bar to clear. And I think this team can clear it potentially. By the way, do you know what the tragic number for the White Sox is for playoff elimination?
2 games?
It is 2.
I saw that yesterday.
So that means
they have to win like 83 is their magic number for the division.
If they won the rest of their games, the best record they could finish with would be they won all the rest of their games. If Brady Sizemore is the greatest manager who's ever lived, and they win the rest of their games, they would finish 71-91.
I saw it yesterday.
Cleveland has 70 wins right now. And
crazy.
The best the White Sox could do is 71.
Yeah, I mean, I saw they had the whole thing for the whole American League Central, like their magic number for the division and being eliminated from the division. So I knew their number was very low, but I still can't believe they pounded the Yankees. At least we're never down that bad.
I think I saw, what was the number? Somebody tweeted the number that they had. They might have been winless all year on Monday nights.
I believe you were correct about that.
Until last night, they were winless on the year on Monday
It's like
nights.
the Royals Tuesday curve.
The Royals are like 4-12 on Tuesdays, and who they playing tonight? On Tuesday against the Twins. We might be cooked.
One trend I would like to see reverse real quick before we move on. In the last week, the Royals have had kind of an annoying habit of having really tepid offensive innings after the other team throws a haymaker. Monday against Boston, they fell behind in the 6th inning after Jarren Duran's go-ahead hit. They went behind 4-2 in the top of the 6th. The bottom of the 6th, they went 1-2-3 on just 12 pitches against a tiring starter. On Tuesday in Boston, they fell behind 6-3 in the 6th inning on the big inning off of I think that was Lugo that night, and then they go 1-2-3 on 10 pitches in the bottom half of the inning. Last night, Royals had good at bats first 2 innings against Pablo Lopez. They had 2 runs and it could have been more. They're up 2-0. Then they fall behind, obviously 6-2. Top of the 3rd, after Lopez had thrown like 30-odd pitches in the 2nd inning, Royals go 1-2-3 on 11 pitches in the top of the 3rd. And that was the middle of their order, too. That was Pasquantino, Perez, and Melendez. That was middle of the order, going 1-2-3 on 11 pitches. So I'm not questioning the mental toughness of this team because their track record is what it is. I mean, they lead baseball and comeback wins. I don't think this is a mental toughness thing. But when you eat a haymaker, you got to make the other team and the other pitcher work a little in the next half inning. Just let them know you're still in the ball game. And that's a trend in the last couple that has been a little bit troubling to me.
I do not disagree. I do not disagree with any of your points. The one about the mental toughness, though, I do think it is at least worth saying. I'm not trying to indicate anything in particular, but mental toughness in June and mental toughness in September are not the same thing. And like we've talked about with Matt Quattrero, that he does a good job, but the feel for games and big moments and knowing when to use the pen in a very meaningful game, that is something that when you don't have experience with it, sometimes that can come back to bite you, and you might not know exactly how to handle your people in that way. The Royals have not played that kind of baseball. There are not a lot of guys on this team that have played that kind of baseball. And like, yeah, you bank on Michael Wacha is going to be the guy who leads the charge, but okay, that's one of 26. Salvy's been there. I mean, Salvy's been to the mountaintop.
Yeah,
but
Hunter Renfro's played meaningful games. Like Adam Frazier's been around a pennant race. He was on that 100-win Orioles team last year. Garrett Hampson's been into playoff.
Michael Lorenzen.
Michael Lorenzen was on a playoff team last year. Lugo obviously was on some good teams.
But a lot of those guys, or at least a number of those guys you just mentioned, are like,
they're not everyday
doesn't really
players.
mean a whole. I don't think it means a whole lot to say, well, Garrett Hampson's been in October.
It doesn't.
Oh,
no, it doesn't
sick.
mean anything.
I've been to Washington, D.C. That doesn't mean I can be president.
Adam Frazier.
Yeah, like, oh, whoop-de-doo.
Yeah, no, it matters a lot more when it's guys like, it's one thing to be an example day to day in the clubhouse, but you got to be an example with the way you play, the way you approach all your at-bats, your regular at-bats. And that is something this Royals team is kind of learning on the fly. It's part of being, and I think even the Royals might internally admit this, a year ahead of schedule, maybe with this core group,
question.
as far as being a real playoff contender.
I mean, I feel like a few months ago when they really were breaking out, that's when we were like, we're changing our expectations, but that's just right now. When they were really good to start the season, and we were like, maybe this team has a chance to be on pace to win 96 games, we had to change our expectations there. But I think even though you could get up to that number, they're probably not going to get to that number now. They'd have to go on a crazy number. But even 86, that's still, you just got a few more pieces in place this year than you probably had expected before, or players that hit at the right time. Obviously, Seth Lugo doing what he did this year. Maybe you didn't necessarily expect him to be as good as he has been.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's without question a year ahead for this team because, if you looked at this 26-man roster on March 27th, the day before opening day, would you have said this team is technically in it for the best record in baseball in mid-August?
No.
I don't think anyone would have said that.
I thought that they would be hovering around 500 and fighting for a wild card spot.
Like that to me was everything possibly goes right. Yeah. And I guess to a degree it kind of has, but this team is better than I ever thought they could be this year. And I think some individual performance is really taking off that helped propel them there.
We'll take a break here on 580 Sports Talk. On the other side from the Kansas Drive to Zero studio, we'll go mic'd up with Matt Nagy and Kingsley Suamataia from Chiefs Camp earlier today here on 580 WIBW. Lots of Kansas City Chiefs talk to get to later on in this show. We're going to open the 4 o'clock hour with a discussion about a roster projection, 53-man roster projection from Nate Taylor of The Athletic. And one position in particular he's kind of bearish on that I was really surprised to read. Plus, Mitch Holthus will join us for a training camp report at 5:25. But first, let's go up to St. Joe. Let's get mic'd up with first offensive coordinator Matt Nagy talking about a couple of the young guys who stood out in Saturday's preseason opener. First off, here's Nagy on the new fullback, Carson Steele.
He's been progressively getting better and better by the day. And then you saw that with some of the runs he had. We're staying on top of these guys, making sure that they're good with the details, with footwork, understanding assignments, where they're at. But he's what I like about him is right now he's doing a lot of good things and being in the right spot at the right time, and you can trust him.
You can trust him. He's making the team.
Yeah, I thought the exact same thing when I heard that quote today. And like, what is a bigger indicator of success for a fringe roster player with Andy Reid as his head coach than trust?
Yeah.
Like, there's two people you need to earn that with. And sorry, Matt Nagy, you are not one of them. They come down to Andy Reid and maybe even more importantly, Patrick Mahomes. And if they say, yeah, you're good, you're on the team.
Here's Matt Nagy talking about Kingsley Suamataia, his first NFL game from Saturday.
I like where he's at. It's going to be growth with him every day. Being able to get some pads, put the lights on, and let him get some reps like we had last week in the preseason game, it's only going to make him better. Reps are invaluable for him right now. Being able to understand the speed, and then more than anything on the offensive line, and sometimes this doesn't get talked about enough, is the communication process between those guys that go on from the center to the tackles, and then being able to execute.
Interesting to hear him say reps are everything for a young player, and then they took him out after 6 snaps. I don't know if they got spooked by the Hollywood Brown injury or what it was, but it's a really good indicator that Suamataia is the guy. But it was funny to hear him say, yeah, reps are everything. We got to get him reps. Well, you had a chance to get him reps. Yanked him after one series with the rest of the starters. So how important is it really for Kingsley Suamataia? For the rookie's part, this is what he had to say about his first game.
They went good. Went against one of the best pass rushers in the league, Josh Allen. But he's a dog. I've watched him since I was in college and in high school. So, but it was a great experience. It's good too, It's funny. I went against this guy. It's like, okay, I belong here. I can play with these guys.
Sometimes you can even hear it when a player talks to the media. If they've talked to the media before, they're a young player, and then they talk to them later on. Mm-hmm. They just are doing it with a lot more confidence.
Yes.
And listening to Kingsley talk today up at practice, you could tell this is a much more confident kid than even he was 2 weeks ago, or even certainly back at OTAs when he might have spoken. He had his welcome to the NFL, I belong here moment, and did. He held his own against Joshua Hines-Allen and did a really nice job. So that was Kingsley Suamataia. One last Matt Nagy cut. This was him being asked about 2 receivers in particular on the fringe of the 53-man roster, Justin Ross and Kadarius Toney.
Making plays. He's out there. He made a great catch there down the sideline. Again, just continuing to grow, not make the same mistake twice for Justin. I love his attitude. He's been very involved and really enjoying his process. And then Kadarius, again, same thing. It's just making sure he's just got to get healthy and get out there so that we can, see him and see the reps.
That doesn't bode well for Kadarius.
No, he stinks.
Yeah.
I don't know.
He didn't even play, did he?
He didn't. He was hurt.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. Like that's the difference right now between Justin Ross. We've seen him. He's out there. He's making plays. He made a play in the game. With Kadarius, we don't know if he can make those plays. He can't get on the field. And that's the difference between a roster spot right there.
Yeah.
The Chiefs traded a 2023 third-round pick for Kadarius Toney. For what it's worth, I wanted to see what that pick turned into. That's not a great way to determine if a trade was equal or not.
Yeah.
The Chiefs won the trade because Kadarius Toney made 2 large plays in Super Bowl 57.
Yes, correct.
That's really all that matters in the end.
They won the trade regardless. Yes. The
Giants, where did that pick go? And I got to go find it. One moment, please. It sometimes doesn't work out, and that it is what it is. Like I'm not going to be all that PO'd if I'm the Chiefs and say, oh man, we gave up a 3rd round pick for a player that stinks but helped us win a Super Bowl one year. Like, oh no, whatever will we do? Like I'm not sweating it, but it is obvious he's not a long-term piece of this team. He's not. Frankly, it's not probably worth the Chiefs wasting a whole lot of energy on him. He turned into Trey Hawkins, and also I was wrong. It wasn't third round. It was day 3. My apologies. It was cornerback Trey Hawkins.
What has he done?
Is he putting fries in the bag right now?
He's made his hometown and his mother very proud.
Trey Hawkins III, pro football cornerback. Thank you, Google. Very useful AI there. He played in 17 games this past season, started 3, broke up a pass, made 35 tackles.
Rotational player, rotational defensive back.
Yeah.
Not a bad outcome for a third-day pick.
Honestly, the Giants' defense, as garbage as their offense is, their defense is kind of nasty. So it could be worse. But would you rather, if you're the Chiefs, would you rather have that guy, your 18th cornerback in rotation, or would you rather have a guy who made 2 plays in a Super Bowl that helped you win?
The latter.
Chiefs won the trade.
Yes.
To win a trade and be able to say we might cut the dude after a year and a half is pretty crazy.
Yeah.
But when you've got the best quarterback in the league and can paper over a lot of mistakes because of it, you live with those things.
Lots more Chiefs roster discussion coming up in the 4 o'clock hour. But first, one final break. We'll come back with some Random Question Tuesday on 580 Sports Talk from the Kansas Drive to Zero studio. Wrapping up the 3 o'clock hour, some Random Question Tuesday here on 580 Sports Talk. Gentlemen, what's your favorite item that you have found at a thrift shop or discount shop? I ask because I'm wearing mine today. It's a Team Venezuela baseball jersey from the 2006 World Baseball Classic. I bought this at a Marshall's for $10 in 2007.
Nice.
It's still in good shape.
I don't really know if Marshall's is a thrift store.
A
though.
discount store.
Okay, fair enough.
Thrift or discount store. It's like you find some wild stuff. Like you go to Marshall's or Ross, or
Oh yeah,
you can find some team gear there that's like TJ Maxx. You find some team gear there that goes crazy.
Sort of regret not getting a camo UTSA hat when they had 80 of them at the Topeka Ross a couple years ago.
TJ Maxx had the Denver Nuggets jeans last time I was there.
Hell yeah. For me, it's a tie from the, what would that be? Westchester, Illinois Goodwill. I got my Wisconsin 1994 Rose Bowl sweatshirt there, which says Wisconsin all the way across the arms and chest. That's sick. That's from before I was alive. Also, a very nice, like 90s style Argyle sweater that I wear regularly. If you have ever seen me at a KU basketball game at Allen Fieldhouse, you have probably seen me wear that sweater.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
That is classic going to a game for work attire for me.
Spencer, you got anything?
Yeah, so I was back in the DC area for some radio or college radio awards thing years ago, and we went to a Goodwill, and I found a DVD disc of highlights from the then Redskins 1983 or the season where they won the 83 Super Bowl, the 27-17 win over the Dolphins. So it was like highlights, commentated, or like discussion with players. Like it was a whole year.
A championship DVD, yeah.
Yeah, it was pretty cool.
Yeah.
For
random question, Brandon?
Yeah, Spencer, I feel bad because I don't really know that you're going to have an answer for this because you're not a fan of this particular thing. So I'm sorry. I feel bad. But if you have an answer, I would love to hear it. Your favorite pro wrestler catchphrase or bit?
Favorite pro wrestler catchphrase or bit? Man, it's hard to.
I thought of this because I cannot get LA Knight, the current U.S. champion. I cannot stop saying, "Let me talk to you." I can't stop it.
I got one, but it's very very popular.
That's
I
fine.
would say this is a pro wrestler. WWE pro wrestling.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ba, ba, da, ba.
Oh,
You can't see me.
He loves the John
That's a good
Cena
one.
theme.
Hell yeah. That's a great one.
He's going back in his retirement tour next year, right?
I know,
I think I saw that.
We have a vote in from the Top Email Supply text line for the 785 for that. That's the bottom line because Stone Cold said so. Pretty much anything out of Stone Cold Steve Austin's mouth in the 1990s was about the coolest thing that these ears have ever heard.
Correct.
Yeah, it would be a tie between all of those. Also, anything out of Ric Flair's mouth for virtually the entirety of his career.
Yeah.
Kiss stealing, wheeling dealing,
Yeah.
high flying son of a gun.
Woo! Yeah, no, that's a good one. Do you have one?
Acknowledge Me by Roman Reigns. Put the ones in the air.
No, that is a good
Says
one.
the city that they're in.
I unironically, I was playing an old NCAA video game a few months ago. I was just up late one night and I was playing and I won the national championship and I legitimately got off my couch and yelled, "Acknowledge me!" Because I won like 37-6.
I thought you were gonna say I played as Joe Anoa'i from Georgia Tech.
We did play at Georgia Tech.
Another vote in for the Top Email Supply text line 785-272-9429. The Top Email Supply text line number. A vote for If You Smell What the Rock Is Cooking.
That's a good one.
Also iconic.
Quick random question here. Favorite go-to like goodie, like baked good. I know Trenton's. He says chocolate chip cookies. They smack. I would agree.
Baked good, yeah, man.
Yeah.
Hot chocolate chip cookies. That's
Okay, I want to come up with something different now because everyone has picked the same thing. I just love a good chocolate brownie. There's a classic thick. I want a thick brownie. Like I don't want a real airy one. I want a thick, cakey brownie.
also I got to shout out pumpkin bread. Pumpkin bread goes bananas, and also banana bread goes bananas.
Is it hot take for me? I don't
Zucchini
want
bread
flavored bread. Give me bread.
You're both wrong.
I also don't love banana flavored things. I like bananas. I don't like banana flavoring.
Yeah.
That'll do it for Random Question Tuesday. Coming up at the 4:00 hour, breaking down some Chiefs roster projections, 2 new stories on what is wrong with you, and some chatter from KU and K-State football camp from the Kansas Drive to Zero studio on hour number 2 of 580 Sports Talk. Let's get it. Hour number 2 of 580 Sports Talk on this Tuesday afternoon. Dan Lucero, Brendan Dworzinski, Spencer Dupuis, and producer-engineer Trenton Kraxner across the glass on 580 WIBW, FM 104.9, online at 580WIBW.com, and on our video stream at 580 Sports Talk on YouTube and WIBW News on Facebook. You just saw Brendan wave at you if you are watching. You just saw Spencer wave at you if you are watching.
Specifically, yes.
Yes.
If you think I'm talking about you are correct. It is you.
The thousands and millions of viewers we have at any given time on YouTube and Facebook just saw Brendan and Spencer wave. I apparently am too cool for that, I guess. I didn't do it.
I'm glad they haven't seen Trenton's camera fall because it's fallen twice today.
That's what I've heard. Trenton's had a little issue. Trenton Cam. Trenton's in the second box here on the video. Trenton Cam has fallen down twice. Sometimes those cameras can be tricky. They've fallen down. One fell on Spencer during the broadcast once. One of the funniest things ever happened on this show.
Very funny. Right there with the microphone also falling on.
Yes,
Yeah.
Things falling on Spencer.
Shout out to Doug.
We've got a whole.
He fixed the mic. It is he fixed this. This is a brand new apparatus.
Huge relief for everyone involved. We should be done with things falling on Spencer, but you never know. You have to tune in to find out. That's if that doesn't entice you to watch the YouTube.
Someone might get maimed.
Not things falling on Spencer specifically, but like you do not know what you will see. You might see the camera fall down, and it might be the one funniest thing you've ever seen. So that is good a reason as any to subscribe to the YouTube channel 580 Sports Talk, or find us on Facebook. You watch us on Facebook as well, WIBW News. Still to come this hour, 2 news stories on what is wrong with you, and we'll talk some KU and K-State football as their camps continue. No Michael Swain today, our resident Jayhawk expert from Fog.net, unable to join us today for Jayhawk Weekly, an unavoidable conflict for Michael in his time slot today. So we'll get back with Michael next week, but we'll talk some Jayhawks and we'll talk some Wildcats later on this hour.
I also want to make sure we share a clip. Today was volleyball media day at KU, and we weren't going. They're going to be really damn good.
Mm-hmm.
We weren't going to get to too much of it, but there was a clip from Topeka's own Cameron Turner, last year's Big 12 Setter of the Year.
Okay.
I do want to make sure we hear this. A, because Cam rules, and B, Bill Self gave her a compliment recently that I want to make sure we hear. So that's what we call a tease.
Looking forward to that, actually. Yeah, excited to hear from Cameron Turner. Outstanding multi-sport athlete at Seaman. And
Cam rules.
Yeah.
She's just such a good athlete.
Having one whale of a career out there for the volleyball team at KU. Still to come on the show later today, our 580 Sports Talk headlines and a training camp report from Mitch Holthus, brought to us by Hy-Vee and by Azura Credit Union.
Did you see what Mark said in the comments on YouTube?
Well, now you're going to have to share with the class.
All right. Stuff falls on all of us, Dan. It's called snow and rain. Haha.
Got us there. I mean, hard to argue with. You can interact with the show on the YouTube live comments as well. If you are in the YouTube stream, interact with fellow listeners and your host on the live chat. You might make Spencer snort out laughing just in the middle of nowhere if you're funny like Mark is. And you can also text the program. The Top City Metal Supply text line 785-272-9429. No more wasting money on metal pieces that leave you with unnecessary leftovers. Top City Metal Supply will cut exact lengths of aluminum, steel, and stainless steel tailored to your project's specifications. Start optimizing your budget with Top City Metal Supply on South Topeka Boulevard, just north of Forbes Field. Nate Taylor, friend of the program, Chase beat writer for The Athletic, after game 1 of the preseason, released his 53-man roster projection. And some of the stuff, obviously, doesn't really warrant a lot of debate. Like, you know who the primary guys on the roster are going to be.
But you don't want to debate the practice squad quarterback, Ian Book or Chris Oladokin?
I don't think there's much debate there, to be honest.
Yeah.
I think Oladokin, Ian Book started an NFL game. Did I hallucinate that, or did that really happen?
No, that
Was
really
that for
happened.
the 49ers?
No,
No.
the Saints, I
The
think.
Saints, yes. It was a Monday night football game, I think right after Christmas, if I remember correctly. I think he played for the Saints against the Dolphins. Kevin Harlan on radio. I remember driving home from Chicago, and I was listening on radio. My wife and I were in the car, and Kevin Harlan made him sound like $1 million because he looked like about 42 cents.
It was 3 years ago. He was 12 of 20 for 135 yards, no scores, 2 picks, got sacked 8 times. A QBR of 2.8. That's out of 100. That is Ian Book's one, not just NFL start. That is his one NFL game. I swear, like, maybe it's getting older. I don't know. There's some stuff I just completely like memory hole, and I think maybe it's like a Mandela effect. Like, did I pretend that Ian Book started an NFL game? Clearly, I did not. Like today, I was reading something, and it said that the Pittsburgh Steelers made the playoffs last year, and I said, no, they didn't. That's not true. That's ridiculous. They didn't make the playoffs last year. Nah, man, they did. They lost to the Bills.
Yeah,
no memory of that. None.
They got their ass beat. That was the game that they moved.
Yes.
They moved it because of the snowstorm. And they played it on Monday. They played a doubleheader Monday playoff.
Yeah, they played it while we were on the air.
By the way, real quick, this is really straying from the topic at hand. I wanted to compare Ian Book to a bad book. So I just Googled worst books of all time. And I went over to Goodreads. They had a user poll. The top 4 worst books of all time, according to Goodreads.com, is the 4 Twilight books.
Wow.
And then number 5 is 50 Shades of Grey, which, as we all know, was just Twilight fan fiction. So, not great.
No.
Other people on this list include Ann Coulter and L. Ron Hubbard.
I don't know where to go.
So do with that what you will.
Yeah, I don't really know where to go from there. Let's get back to the Chiefs if we can.
I'm sorry.
It'd be like that.
Hey, I saw Catcher in the Rye on this list, and if we got to that point, I was going to fight someone. So good time to get back to the topic. I love that book.
2 things that Nate Taylor wrote that really stood out to me. The first was his projection for the defensive line. He's got 9 defensive linemen making the team. George Karlaftis, Chris Jones, Mike Pinnell, Mike Dana, Tershawn Wharton, Felix Anudike-Uzomah, Derek Nottie, Neil Farrell, Malik Herring. No surprises in that group. Obviously, Charles Omenihu, who's going to start the season on IR, so he's not included. But those are the 9 linemen that I think anybody would expect to start the year with the Chiefs. This is what Taylor writes about the position. One way to look at this group is that the Chiefs are in much better shape than last year because Jones is not holding out. Also, Pinnell starting over Nottie appears to be an upgrade. But another way to look at this group is that the Chiefs still have a problem. They just don't have enough quality defensive linemen. The major absence is Charles Omenihu. The earliest he could return to the field is in late October. Anudike-Uzomah has shown small improvements throughout camp, and Farrell should have a bigger role this season. Still, the Chiefs could use another defensive end for the start of the season. Do you think that's true?
Well, I think it is important to add in the final sentence here from Nate as well. If general manager Brett Veach wants to make a move before the season opener, the team has $17.1 million in salary cap space per over the cap. Okay, if you're just asking me in a vacuum, no, I don't. I think you can get by with Chris Jones plugging up the middle. I'm as high on George Karlaftis as anybody. I like Mike Dana. He's a good player. I'm hopeful. I'm optimistic about Felix and what he can do this year. I'm more content with the edges than I am with the and I like Malik Herring. I'm more content with the edge group than the interior, to be frank. I like Turk Wharton, but I think we've had enough time with Turk Wharton that we've sort of run out of the potential thing. I think he just is what he is.
I think is still a fine player.
It is a fine player. Derek Nottie is a fine player.
Is he going to play, though? Is he going to be ready?
Maybe not for week 1.
Yeah, it might not be right away. I mean, Neil Farrell, they traded for him. They obviously saw something. There's no, I don't think there's a needle mover in that group. Now, I will say this, though, to answer your original question in a different way. Nate is good at his job.
Yes.
Really good. Nate and Matt, who we have on the show every week, are the 2 best guys on the beat for the Chiefs. I don't think that comes up if Nate has not heard something. And I'm not trying to put words in Nate Taylor's mouth. He deserves better than that. I'm just saying, go back as a reference to last year during the Chris Jones holdout. Where did we hear a lot of the Chiefs negotiating points in the media?
It was from Nate Taylor.
Nate has good sources.
He is tied in
within the team. I don't think that comes up unless there has at least been a whisper about it. Maybe nothing imminent, but I have to imagine someone who has as many good sources within the Chiefs as Nate Taylor does has to have made some sort of reference to that to make Nate put it in a piece that a lot of people are reading.
So this is what made me kind of come around to Nate Taylor's line of thinking. Because when I first read this, I thought that was surprisingly bearish about this group. I mean, George Karlaftis is coming off of a double-digit sack season and has room to improve as a young player. Chris Jones is a double-digit sack guy, automatic. I think there will be growth this year for Felix at defensive end. I think that Mike Dana is one of the more underrated players, maybe in the entire AFC at his position. Wharton, Noddy, and Pennell aren't superstar needle mover players, but like rotationally in the middle, I think that's a good group. And I looked at that group and felt like, yeah, that's probably that's fine. That's a good group. There's some upside with some young guys like Karlaftis and Felix. I think it's a good group. I think that's an overreaction to say they don't have enough good defensive linemen, especially when they get a Menahu back as early as October. But then I started thinking of it this way. If you could add a player to the Chiefs, if the Chiefs could just go get a guy, anybody they wanted, if they got a league exemption to just take another player from another team, it would almost certainly be a edge rusher, wouldn't it? Like, it would almost certainly be a top-end edge rusher to pair with Karlaftis off of one edge and pair with Chris Jones and what he does up the middle, right? Like, I think that is another way to look at the fact that, as you put it, it's not a needle-moving group. They've got guys who are solid pros here. Mm-hmm. They haven't invested a ton in terms of, like, free agent dollars here. Like, Chris Jones getting paid quite a bit. Amenahu, obviously, they gave a nice contract. But this is 2 first-round picks in Karlaftis and Felix, and then a bunch of, second and third day picks, and not guys outside of Jones that you're spending a ton of money on. Even Omenahu's not on a big contract. Mm-hmm. So it's not a position where they've done a great deal of investment. And yeah, maybe it isn't quite as good as I thought, in the sense that, like, it might be one that proves to be that where the whole is greater than the sum of the parts. But yeah, the parts themselves individually aren't spectacular. Like, other than Jones, you don't have, unless Karlaftis makes another leap year 3, which I don't think is beyond him, they don't have superstar edge rusher on this roster.
Well, and to the point you made, the analogy you made there about, if you could take someone off another team, if your rotation right now, let's, for this hypothetical, let's set the rotation. If you're just ranking, best edge in the rotation to, the 4th guy, it's Karlaftis, Dana, Felix, then Herring?
Yes.
Okay. If you were to go take an elite, you're going to steal in the division. You have been given free reign. You get to steal one player from another team anywhere. And Andy Reid says, who I love to embarrass? The Raiders. And we're going to take their best player. We're going to take the guy who, teaser, I'm picking to win Defensive Player of the Year in 2024. You're taking Max Crosby. Yeah. How many of those 4 Chiefs are being moved down the totem pole?
No, all of them.
Every single one of them.
Yeah, he'd be their best. He'd be their best guy.
And I think that's the point I'm trying to make here, is that this is a position that has good players. And again, I think George Karlaftis is really good. Mm-hmm. And there are a lot of guys you could add where I'd say, okay, no, you're like 1A, 1B with Karlaftis, or maybe even right below him. But like, nobody in this group is irreplaceable. A Max Crosby with the Raiders, that's an irreplaceable player. You are not finding someone to replace him. You're not finding a replacement for Nick Bosa. You kind of have to, because he only plays 10 games, but you know what I mean. You're not finding a replacement for TJ Watt. Same complaint, funny enough. Whereas these Chiefs, like, if you could even go add a middle of the pack edge rusher, and you're like, God, we think this guy can be our 3rd edge. I don't think the Chiefs are making a move with the idea that we cannot take Felix off the field. Like, we believe in him too much. And I don't mean to dump on the guy, because I'm hopeful that he has an impact performance this year.
But it's got to be proven. Like, he's got to show it.
I think it's worth saying you should probably read the tea leaves and how the Chiefs have talked about DK Uzama. Not that they've been like, yeah, well, whatever. It's not the old Aaron Rodgers, well, he's here, which, when that's the case, you're done. You're cooked. They have not talked like that, and they've been positive about his development. But there has never, even since he got drafted, been like, we think Felix is going to be a franchise cornerstone. We think he has X kind of potential.
It's been a lot about his improvement.
And it's been improvement.
And
it's
the
been
need to continue
along.
to improve.
Exactly. So I think if you could go out and find, if there was a Mike Dana clone out there and you could go sign him for the Dana contract right now, I think the Chiefs do it, and the Chiefs live with Felix now being edge 4.
Yeah.
I think they would be comfortable doing that.
No, I would
and
agree.
frankly, if possible, I would be content doing that, even at the expense of my guy Malik Herring.
So the other position that stood out from Nate Taylor's projection at The Athletic was wide receiver, and he's got 7 wide receivers making the team. This is what Taylor writes. Well, here we go again. When camp began, the Chiefs likely wanted to keep just 6 receivers, which often creates another roster spot for an offensive lineman. Last year, the Chiefs kept 7, in part because Kadarius Toney, then the projected number 1 receiver, God, that was the thing we did last year, missed all of camp and the preseason with a knee injury. This year, the Chiefs should keep 7 receivers after Hollywood Brown sustained a sternoclavicular dislocation. By the way, the reporting today is that Brown is likely to miss 4 to 6 weeks, kind of what we assumed based on Tyreek Hill's timetable. From suffering the same injury back in 2019.
And if it is indeed that timetable, just for the record, that would be anywhere from returning in week 2 against the Bengals to maybe returning week 4 against the Chargers.
The 7 wide receivers Taylor projects they would keep: Hollywood Brown, Rashee Rice, Xavier Worthy, Justin Watson, Mecole Hardman, Justin Ross, Nico Remigio. No Sky Moore, no Kadarius Toney. Remigio and Ross making the team. Remigio's got a chance to contribute on special teams. Ross, we heard Matt Nagy last hour say that he is having a really good camp. Like last year, he was the camp darling. This year, it feels like we're over him. Like he's last year's darling. He's yesterday's news.
He's the scene from Toy Story. I don't want to play with you anymore.
But he's still out there, and he's still balling. And the play he made, that catch he made along the sideline in the third quarter of Saturday's game against Jacksonville, that's kind of play the Chiefs don't have a lot of guys who can make.
I agree. I used to be a believer that you should keep as many wide receivers as you can. I like that was a philosophical belief for me when it came to roster building within the last couple of years. I've turned on that though. I don't know that the Chiefs need 7 wide receivers, one of whom who's at the bottom of the pecking order is not going to give you anything on special teams. But Justin Ross is not playing special teams. That's just not something he's ever done. That's never really been something the Chiefs have considered. Now, Remigio can, and you want your last wide receiver to be a contributor on special teams, and Remigio will be. Like if Justin Ross earns his spot on the team over Remigio or over Hardman or whoever, then awesome, great. That's good. He had a really good camp and deserved that roster spot. I've got no problem with that. But I don't know, man. 7 receivers for a team that I think is going to use a lot of tight ends. I don't know that makes a whole lot of sense, and I wonder if it would make more sense to use that spot elsewhere.
Now, the other thought, too, is it's 7 to start the year, and then once Hollywood Brown is healthy, maybe Mecole Hardman gets cut. Or maybe they waive Remigio and try to slip him through waivers, or they waive Ross. It could just be 7 for the sake of we want to have 6 healthy for game 1. But Nate Taylor is with you on the tight end front. He's got the Chiefs keeping 4 tight ends. Yeah. Travis Kelce, Noah Gray, Jared Wiley, and Irv Smith Jr., and only keeping 3 running backs: Pacheco, Edwards-Helaire, and Carson Steele. No Deneric Prince. I think maybe it's as simple as it's Prince or Remigio for that return gig, and Remigio might have fumbled a punt, but Deneric Prince screwed up on the touchback rule.
So,
and Remigio maybe gives your offense a little bit more.
I'm going to be honest. I would rather keep Deneric Prince and just bet on the speed than keep Irv Smith. And Nate,
I'm not wild about keeping Irv Smith either, but like the Chiefs love to do a lot of 3 tight end stuff. And if you get a guy hurt.
Right. No, I totally understand what you're saying. And Nate wrote here in this piece, and I recommend you go check it out at The Athletic, said he's had a really good camp. He can contribute on special teams. He also, though, says the Chiefs once again have 4 capable tight ends. I don't really know that I would call Irv Smith capable, to be honest with you. He's
been in the league and he can tie his own shoes.
He's a jag. He's just a body. I I would probably keep Prince over Smith. I mean, shoot, if it was one or the other, I'd probably keep 7 wide receivers over Smith, to be honest with you. But you're right. If you want to run a bunch of tight end stuff, and we know the Chiefs do, and we know they've kept 4 before, man, RIP to the Chiefs' career of Jody Fortson. Like, I can understand it. We're talking about the 53rd guy. It probably doesn't mean that much.
My big gripe here is we've seen the show. I think you said this on the show yesterday, Dan. Why is Clyde Edwards-Helaire still going to be on this team?
I was talking about that yesterday. Yeah,
There's you, yeah.
Like
I just don't get it. I get what Nate Taylor's saying about the legitimate experience, but I don't know.
Is he been practicing? Like, is he out there? Like, I know
he's sick yesterday is what they said.
I know he's going through some things, and I don't want to diminish the very real mental health struggles that Clyde Edwards-Helaire has gone throughout his career. And like we talked about with Matt Verderame yesterday, our NFL insider, he's a great locker room guy and a great teammate. When you're talking about players 48 through 53 on a roster, sometimes that matters more. But you've got 2 young guys in Prince and Steele who have shown you maybe a little bit more upside in that role right now. Wouldn't you rather have the upside? Wouldn't you rather have that opportunity? Because, look, Prince has the speed. We know he can catch out of the backfield. They rave about his hands out of the backfield, so he could be a piece in the passing game, maybe more so than Clyde could be at this point. Yeah, like sooner or later, Edwards-Helaire has to be out on the practice field to make the team, I think. And again, you don't want to rush a guy who's going through something, and you want to be sensitive to that. But at the same time, it's hard to make the team when you aren't practicing, even for a 5th-year former first-round pick.
I liked the fact that they did this year bring in a visit. They had J.K. Dobbins in for a visit. I thought they were maybe going to sign somebody outside, and I was like, maybe bring in a veteran guy from the outside might help with Pacheco's development possibly, and to be the second guy. And after that, they just re-signed Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and it was kind of disappointing to me because it just didn't seem like Edwards-Helaire on the field moves the mark for you.
I don't disagree. Like, I don't think you're getting something positive with having Clyde Edwards-Helaire around. But that being said, the spin the other direction is if you're going to go with a number of players who you're banking on being high upside additions in your pass catcher / skill position groups, like Ross, like Remigio, you probably want some guys who are just stable and you know what they are as well. Because if you bank on a lot of guys who are just potential, statistically speaking, most of them will not reach it. Like, the 2022 draft does not happen all that often. And even that draft ended up with a major bust in Sky Moore. Like, that's a lot of pressure to put on guys who have not proven anything. And like, I don't think Edwards-Helaire has proven to be good, but you know what he is. You know what you are getting, and there is value to having that as a backup.
I think that a lot of the perception of Clyde Edwards-Helaire is because he was a first-round pick and hasn't produced.
Yeah.
But at the same time, his production has gone steadily backwards in each of his first 4 NFL seasons. And if he can't be on the field, then you're going to have to go in a different direction. And that's just kind of the reality of the league. That's if that feels insensitive, given Clyde Edwards-Helaire's mental health issues and struggles, which, again, we're not discounting that, but you have to be on the field. You have to be able to play. If you're going to be running back too, you got to be available. You have to be, because you're gonna be called upon to play some snaps.
Yeah,
like we said, Isaiah Pacheco's not playing 85%, 90% of the snaps. That's just not happening.
No, he won't be able to hold up.
So you need somebody who can take some of that pitch count off of Pacheco, and for right now, Clyde hasn't shown that he's going to be able to be that guy. We'll take a break here on 580 Sports Talk. Come back with a round of What Is Wrong With You from the Kansas Drive to Zero studio on 580 WIBW. Time for What Is Wrong With You on 580 Sports Talk. 2 new stories today, taking on our current weekly champion, contemptuous language. The defendant in Washtenaw County, Michigan, who got hit with 6 consecutive 93-day jail sentences for repeatedly swearing at a judge who wasn't having any of that nonsense in his Zoom courtroom and just kept hitting him with sentence after sentence until he ultimately tallied 558 days in jail for swearing at a judge. That's our current weekly champion.
Very dumb.
Very dumb. We got 2 new stories today. I'll go first. We're going to Florence, South Carolina. Spencer, you ever been to a Buc-ee's?
No, I want to.
You should want to.
I really want to.
They're glorious.
Apparently, there's one eventually coming to KCK.
Yes, to the Legends.
Yes, that is correct. They got one in Colorado.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
In Johnstown.
They have one in Southern
North of
Virginia.
Denver.
Haven't gotten that.
Yeah, they're really expanding. It used to be like exclusively a Texas and Southern thing, and now it's growing. Buc-ee's is incredible. I think about their gummy bears all the time.
Shout out to the Beaver Nuggets.
Anyway, Richard Brown of Kershaw County, South Carolina, is suing Buc-ee's. He is suing the company because he tripped over a rope holding down a large inflatable beaver mascot. This happened back in 2022.
He's just now
Brown, quote, tripped over a rope that was running from the base of the Buc-ee's inflatable beaver mascot to the anchor point. The complaint says Brown sustained several injuries, most notably to his right shoulder. Prior to the incident, defendant was aware of the dangerous condition of the rope that was holding the inflatable beaver in place. The suit says the suit was filed August 1st. Brown is suing Buc-ee's for negligence and seeking unspecified financial damages. This guy tripped over an anchor rope and he's suing Buc-ee's over it.
I don't think you are going to win this law.
Like settle out of court for like some brisket sandwiches, man. Like this is
give me free Buc-ee's.
Maybe that's what
for a year.
Maybe that's what he's aiming for. Like he's wanting to settle out of court for like a year's supply of beaver nuggets.
I want once a week to be able to go to the jerky wall and take something off of it. That's what I would try to settle for. Yeah, I mean, this isn't like
2 years later, he decides he's going to sue Buc-ee's.
Dude, there's a rope. You should be able to look for that. Like, that's not Buc-ee's fault. If they had left, like, harmful chemicals out without any sort of marking, okay, yeah, there's probably a tort.
If, like, the costumed beaver mascot had, like, thrown you into the jerky wall and caused you to injure your shoulder, you would have a case.
I was impaled by ostrich jerky. Then, yeah, I would have a case. But, no, come on.
Shout out to Buc-ee's.
We need tort reform.
Spencer, your story today.
Yes, we're going to go to Magoffin County, Kentucky. A man has been indicted by a grand jury and is awaiting arraignment after being accused of getting into a fight with his girlfriend over a toaster pastry.
Oh, no.
Troopers with the Kentucky State Police say when they first talked with the victim at a hospital on February 18th, she was bruised, scraped, and bleeding. According to the arrest citation, the victim told troopers she got into a fight with her boyfriend, Jeremiah Brown, at his home on Long Creek Road in Royalton in Magoffin County. The victim said Brown grabbed a knife and held it to her throat and threw the knife down, threatened to kill her, choked her until she passed out.
Jeez.
Yeah. She told troopers that she came to. Brown had dragged her to the door and threw her out, according to the citation. Court records show that Brown was arrested in February, released on bond that day, and was served an arrest warrant on August 2nd following the indictment from June 20th. The suspect was taken to the Big Sandy Regional Detention Center on a $10,000 bond. His arraignment is set for Thursday. According to the arrest citation, when troopers asked Brown about what happened, he said they got into an argument.
Yeah, I'm going to go out on a limb here and say the toaster strudel was probably just the tip of the iceberg.
Did you see this picture of this guy?
Yeah, I did.
Looking a little
click
rough.
The link. Yeah.
Yeah, looking like he's seen some better days.
Yeah.
He looks like a guy that would do that, though.
So I'm going to go with the guy who tripped over the rope at Buc-ee's. Like, I bet that was really funny to watch happen if you saw it.
Yes.
Like, it's very slapstick. And
Yeah.
2 years later, he's like, I'm going to sue Buc-ee's. My shoulder still kind of hurts. I'm going to sue Buc-ee's. Maybe I'll get some of their famous taffy.
That's really funny.
Buc-ee's is going to drive that guy to bankruptcy.
Yeah, that's
you know Buc-ee's got shooters. Like, their lawyers do not mess around.
No.
Does that beat the guy who swore his way to 558 days in jail?
I'm going to say no. You just gave away almost 2 years of freedom because you were you were having a temper tantrum.
You were in a bad mood and you swore to judge, and you should have known because the famous judge that he doesn't take any guff in his courtroom.
No, not one bit of it.
And now you're going to jail for 558 days because you have potty mouth. Contemptuous language continues on as our What Is Wrong With You champion for the week. When we come back, we'll talk some KU and K-State football here on 580 Sports Talk from the Kansas Drive to Zero studio. .441 on 580 Sports Talk. Typically here we'd be joined by Michael Swain of Fog.net on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline for Jayhawk Weekly, but Michael unable to join us today. So we'll get Michael's inside information on all things Jayhawks next week on the program. In the meantime, KU's camp continues today. They had no media availability today, at least that I was aware of. They got some tomorrow. Offensive line coach is going to speak, and some of the players are going to speak after tomorrow's practice. But Brendan, I have to ask you, as our resident Jayhawk in the building here, what is standing out to you about what you're hearing and seeing from KU football camp to this point?
The number one thing that I'm hearing from camp, and I know Michael's written a little bit about this, sounds like DJ Warner is a dude. And not just like, oh, yeah, like someday he'll be. No, it sounds like, and Leipold and Brian Borland have been very careful when they have spoken to the media to not go too far and to not try to put too much on. You might know him as Deshaun Warner. He's going by DJ. He highest ranked recruit in the recruiting service era that KU's ever picked up, the 4-star from Arizona. And they've said, hey, we don't want to put too much on him. We're bringing him along, but he's looked really good. By all accounts, he doesn't look good. He looks awesome. And apparently By Job has looked pretty good too. Dak Brinkley coming along. He's a really talented player, but he's also coming off an injury from last year, so he's got to come along a little bit. But it sounds like Warner is legit. And am I expecting him to come in as a true freshman and to have like a Jadeveon Clowney season? No. But, we're talking double-digit sacks as a freshman. I'm not expecting that. But I will say, if you can go full Moneyball and recreate Austin Booker in the aggregate with Dak Brinkley, DJ Warner, as well as By Job, along with Jeremy Robinson on the other side of the line, suddenly you're feeling a lot better about that defensive front. I think the tackles are fine. I don't think they're bad. I'm slightly bullish on what they're going to be this year. You need to get after the quarterback, though. And if Warner can be even a good number 2 option rushing the quarterback, it is going to do wonders for this team because your defense is going to look better overall. It's going to help out your linebackers in the second level. It's going to make the coverage easier for your really talented corners on the back end. That's the number one thing. And we'll talk to Michael about it next week when he joins us, how good Warner can be as a freshman, because I understand trying to slow play it, but man, if he's got the goods right away, I don't want to go too overboard because I'm trying to protect myself from being let down this year. But if he really is that good, we're talking 7 to 8 sacks and like middle of the pack in the Big 12 in pressure numbers, changes everything for the entire defense.
They need a guy to be that guy because they lost that guy.
Yes.
In Austin Booker. They need somebody, whether it's Jeremy Robinson or whether it's By Job. More likely that they recreate it on the production from Booker in the aggregate more so than one guy does it. But yeah, good early reports about those defensive ends that are coming into this program. High-end athletes.
Yeah.
And you have a good defensive line coach, Jim Panagos, and turn those guys loose.
Panagos is a stud. I know you've gotten to meet
I've talked to Jim Panagos.
Gotten to pick his brain a little bit. And these are the kind of guys that he likes. They're athletic, but they're big. Mm-hmm. They are not easy to move. I know we, at one point, we were at a game where he was recruiting a high school game a couple years ago, and that's what he wants. And that is what he has gotten in these guys. So I'm really excited. I think we're probably not going to get a great test for them until week 3. I mean, UNLV will be good, and that's a unique offense, that go-go offense for Brennan Marion. That's unique, so that'll be something of a test. Illinois, I don't really know what to make of them this year.
No idea.
KU might kill Linwood. Like, really bludgeon the Lindenwood Lions. Sorry, not Linwood. Lindenwood Lions this year. That's going to be gross in week 1 that Thursday night. But that's the number one thing for me is you've got to find that edge presence. If I may also sidestep, because we're going to get to Joe Klanderman here in a second for K-State. I wanted to get to this. It was volleyball media day at KU, and we were talking about it earlier. This team is going to be really dang good this year. They're going to be awesome. Cameron Turner, who is arguably the best player KU has, the reigning Big 12 setter of the year. She's got another year of eligibility. Topeka's own, the Seaman Vikings, great. She was asked today, and this is audio is courtesy of Glenn Kinley over at Channel 27. She was told recently by Bill Self that she is the best point guard on campus at KU.
Oh, wow.
Here's her talking about that. Trent, if I can get audio over here on this machine. Thank you. All right, here is Cameron Turner.
So I grew up from Topeka, obviously. And so everyone in my family is a big KU fan. Like my uncle literally is insane, loves KU basketball. So I feel like every single time they come to the game, they're like, Bill Self was there, like blah, blah, blah. So for him to like say that about me, obviously I was like, fangirling a little bit. But it was super cool. And just like to be seen and that he's showing support to us. So I feel like that was really, really cool.
You didn't get any pushback from DeJuan Harris?
No, he was like, yeah, you got it. He's right.
So, yeah.
DeJuan Harris knows better than to argue with Bill Self.
Yeah. I think he's probably learned. Going into year 6.
Yeah,
I think he's probably
played for him longer. So, yeah, nobody would know that better.
Just so cool and cool for her to get, shout out to Topeka, the Leonardo DiCaprio meme.
Topeka mentioned.
Yes. No, that's just so cool. I'm really excited for that team this year. You know how much I love the Vol. And to have a Topeka kid be that good is awesome. But yeah, I had to make sure we got to that
for sure,
because you don't get compliments like that every day.
No, that's great stuff. You mentioned Joe Klanderman, the Kansas State defensive coordinator, spoke to the media earlier today. K-State did have media availability. A lot of defensive players spoke. Joe Klanderman talked as well. Thought this was an interesting question. He was asked who his defensive quarterback is. Who's the guy leading the defense? And, well, Joe Klanderman had a lot of answers to that question.
I'd say we're what do they call that? A dual quarterback system. I really would. You know, the easy answer is Austin Moore. And I think if you asked, he's kind of an unquestioned leader. You know, he has everybody's ear and everybody's respect because of all the things he's been through, because of how steady he is every day, because of how humble he is in the things that he does with all of what he's done. So, you know, he's certainly a leader. But as far as who's out there talking, we've seen an emergence of you know, from the corner room, Jacob Parrish, Keenan Garber. You know, I haven't heard those guys in the past. They're loud. Marquise Siegel, Jordan Riley's a good communicator. VJ's an excellent communicator. VJ Payne. You know, we actually did a walkthrough yesterday because I wanted to impress on the young guys. This is kind of a weird. We took 5 minutes and did this. I wanted to impress on the young guys just how much those guys communicate. So we had the young guys kind of stand around, and I put out some offensive formations and gave our starters some calls, and just the pre-snap communication that was going on with those guys just was electric. It was awesome. And it was a great lesson for some of those younger guys, the Wesley Fairs, the guys that are going to come up and be really good players, for those guys to hear what's really going on out there. It's more than just lining up and knowing what your keys is, and it's helping everybody else out with what you might see through your pre-snap process. So it's quarterback by committee.
One thing that stands out to me about K-State, and now I watch them from a different perspective than I watch any other team in the country because I'm at a lot of their home games.
Right.
So I have that sort of that all 22 perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Communication is so important pre-snap, and I think they do it really well. I think that is one of the things that they excel at just as a group. And one of the things that Joe Klanderman excels at as a defensive coordinator is making sure his guys communicate effectively pre-snap. I don't see a lot of defenses in the country who are as demonstrative pre-snap, signaling, making sure guys are on the same page, turning their heads, looking for their checks, looking to make sure the guy next to them knows what their read or what their key is. They communicate at a really high level. And I think that this group, the experienced guys on this defense are going to be just as communicative this year. And I think that's a really good sign for the possible success of this group.
I mean, would you expect anything else from a team coached by Chris Kleiman, though? Not communicating well is not an option for this team. And I think Joe Klanderman is a really good coach. I think he is a very talented coordinator, and I think this defense is going to be fine this year. I do have some questions about the ceiling for it. I do think it is a slightly more limited group just in terms of ability than they've had in past years. But I think K-State has won a lot of games and has had a lot of 10-win seasons and bowl wins with teams like that. So I'm not going to doubt them. I don't know that they have quite that same ceiling production-wise that they've had before. I also would like to add this real quick before we get to a commercial break. How in the world does Keenan Garber still have eligibility? I was thinking about that, listening to that. I swear he was recruited in like 2012. How is he still eligible?
Yeah, he's been around a long time, hasn't he?
It's COVID years, man.
And remarkable. That's a mid-career position switch. And there's a lot of times that doesn't go well. A lot of times you start one side of the ball and then they tell you the middle of your career, yeah, go to the other side of the ball. You know what that means? You do a lot of watching football in your career. That's hard to do. Change positions midstream. Keenan Garber went from being a wide receiver when he started to now being a starting defensive back, starting corner, and being a pretty good one, too. And him and Jacob Parrish are as good a set of bookends, I think, as there are in the Big 12. And I think we're not going to be able to play the whole clip. He did speak glowingly, too, of Austin Romaine in particular. We were concerned about this linebacker core coming into the season. I think with Austin Moore, Desmond Purnell, Austin Romaine, the transfer from New Mexico, Alec Marenko, I think it's a pretty good foundation. And anything with those four, anything you get from Asa Newsome is maybe a bit of a bonus as he comes off of his knee injury. Yeah. But I think they're going to be set. They did have a lot of injuries last year. And look, nobody's going to be in great shape if you get 2, 3, 4 guys hurt at one position. There's just nobody that can survive that unless you're Georgia and everybody on your team's a 5-star. But I think K-State's in better shape at that position than maybe we thought going into the year. We'll take a break here on 580 Sports Talk. We'll talk much more K-State tomorrow with Tim Fitzgerald to GoPowerCat.com. But first, we'll take a break here, come back and wrap up this 4 o'clock hour, 580 Sports Talk after this. 580 Sports Talk, Dan, Brendan, Spencer, Trenton. Guys, real quick. Something I asked or theoretically put out there earlier in the show. Real quick answer I want here. And you can chime in if you're listening on the Top Email Supply text line or in the YouTube live chat. If the Chiefs could, in fact, have one player from any NFL team and add him to their roster, who would it be?
I think it's one of two. It's either Justin Jefferson just for the lulz. Like, you will not stop this. You will not stop this offense at all. Honestly, though, I would probably pick Max Crosby. And to be honest with you, he might be my favorite non-Chiefer Packer at this point. I love that dude.
I was going to say either Crosby or TJ Watt, like an elite edge rusher. Spencer?
It would help that my mic was on.
It would.
TJ Watt, a weird factor here. Matthew Judon wants to leave New England.
Just go get him.
Yeah,
Just
you can
go
do
get
that.
him.
Why do the hypothetical? Just go get him.
Yeah.
Nothing hypothetical about that. Just go get the guy. You have to pay him, but that'd be a whole different ball of wax. Coming up in the final hour of 580 Sports Talk today, we got our Sports Talk headlines and another training camp report with Mitch Holthus, the voice of the Chiefs. That's all coming up from the Kansas Drive to Zero studio on 580 Sports Talk. Let's get it. Final hour of 580 Sports Talk on this Tuesday afternoon. Thanks for being with us, making us a part of your afternoon routine on 580 WIBW, FM 104.9, online at 580WIBW.com, and on video. The YouTube channel is 580 Sports Talk. Subscribe today if you haven't already. Last I looked, we were at 614 subscribers. That's a neat number. Let's drive it up even higher, shall we? Subscribe today to the YouTube channel 580 Sports Talk. You can also watch us on Facebook at WIBW News.
Make that 615.
Hey, now, we added a subscriber today. We love to see it. We love to see it.
People
and
of
receive
culture.
it. Yes. We appreciate each and every one of you.
We got to do another subscriber drive.
We'll have to figure something out. Yeah.
It's been a while.
Yeah.
We were on a heater there for a while.
We really were. We had a lot of impetus to get people to subscribe. And
Because people were leaving. We were all being bullied.
Brendan
People went
just
on
needs
tri-
to go on a vacation for a whole week.
Shoot, brother. I would love to.
Yeah, I think we could all use.
Let's go talk.
Listen,
Let's go talk to the powers that be.
I
Make
got-
that happen.
I got a 2-month-old at home. I need a much longer vacation than that. Trust me. But no, we appreciate you tuning in. We appreciate you being here with us here on 580 Sports Talk. Dan Lucero, Brendan Dworzinski, Spencer Dupuis, and producer engineer Trenton Kraxner. Coming up later on this hour, about 5:25, Mitch Holthus will join us, the voice of the Chiefs, with another training camp report brought to us by Hy-Vee and by Azura Credit Union. We'll also preview tonight's Game 2 of a 3-game series between the Royals and the Twins. Bad night all the way around for the Royals. They lose to the Twins last night. The Guardians rallied back to beat the Cubs. The Yankees were losers, but the Orioles won. Boston won. They had a comeback win. Walter Pennington not helping the Royals in his new capacity as a pitcher for the Rangers, unable to hold a lead in the 10th inning in an extra inning game. And Houston won again, too. They've been red hot. So they're very much back in the playoff mix. So Royals need to bounce back tonight, and they'll turn to their all-star, Seth Lugo, to try and deliver it. We'll get to that a little bit more later on this hour. But first, it's our 580 Sports Talk headlines. And we start with As the World Turns with Brandon Ayuk. It now appears that a trade between the 49ers and the Steelers involving the star wide receiver is on the brink. Ian Rappaport reporting earlier. Let's try that again.
He is Rappaporting.
That's a lot to say. That's a tongue twister. I needed to warm up.
Ian Rappaport reports.
I needed to go with some rubber baby buggy bumpers before I tried to say Ian Rappaport reporting that the Steelers and the 49ers have a deal on a potential trade, and Pittsburgh is in a good place on a potential contract for Ayuk. If San Francisco gives the final sign-off, it's done. But the 49ers have an offer out to Ayuk on a long-term deal, one that the wide receiver has yet to accept. So I don't know what the domino that has to fall first is here. Either it's the 49ers tiring of Ayuk's act, or it's Ayuk firmly and finally telling San Francisco, no, send me to Pittsburgh. I want to live in Pennsylvania and not California, and I want to catch passes from washed Russell Wilson for a team that isn't going to the Super Bowl this year. And maybe that's what he wants to do, because they'll pay him a lot more money there than he's going to get in San Francisco, it would appear. But yeah, just one big domino left to tip over, it seems like, for this to get done and for Brandon Ayuk to be a Steeler.
Pretty Ricky was right. Let's get that out there first. The insider to the stars, the guy with the dog avatar on Twitter, Pretty Ricky, has been calling Brandon Ayuk to Pittsburgh this entire time. I think Pittsburgh, if it had even a top 14 quarterback in the NFL, might win that division. And that's a really good division. I'm in on their defense.
Yeah.
I think their defense is good. I think if they use more Jalen Warren than they do Najee Harris, I think their run game can be decent with Arthur Smith. I think their wide receiver core is fine enough. I'm not as high on George Pickens as some people are, but I think that's a good team overall. It's been so long since they've had good quarterback play. When is the last season they had legitimately good quarterback play?
The thing about the Steelers is they also have a top 3 head coach in the NFL.
Top 3?
You're a Mike Tomlin high.
Mike Tomlin could coach us 4 to a over 500 record as one of us as the quarterback.
It sort of feels like that. They had some straight bums at quarterback last year, and they still went 10-7.
Us 4 could be 4 out of the 5 starting offensive linemen for the Steelers, and we'd still win 9 games.
I mean, they've never gone under 500, right, with him as head coach. Also, Mike Tomlin is just getting a younger version of Mike Tomlin.
I don't get why you'd want to go play with those two dudes, to be honest with you, Dan. But if that's what he wants, that's what he wants. And it sounds like Pittsburgh really wants him. And I don't blame him. And I'll tell you what, I like George Pickens a lot more as a number 2 than as number 1.
Yeah, that's true. Like you can just send him down the field and let him do the George Pickens stuff, which is just be a menace down the field.
Yeah. By the way, the answer is they last had good quarterback play in 2018.
That was the last good Roethlisberger year?
Yeah, Roethlisberger did throw 16 picks that year, which is a lot. He also threw for 5,100 yards and 34 touchdowns.
And they had some good receivers that year. That was peak Antonio Brown.
That would have been young Juju, right?
I'm looking it up right now.
Didn't they still have Martavis Bryant?
That was Juju 111 catches, Antonio Brown 104 catches. And
was that before Martavis Bryant got suspended for like 3 years?
No, Martavis Bryant was not on this team. Their third leading receiver was James Conner, and their fourth leading receiver was a gentleman named Vance McDonald. It really was the Juju and Antonio Brown show.
And Juju had 1,400. Juju had more yards than Antonio Brown did.
Talk about
Brown did have 15 touchdowns.
It went under the radar because his teams continue to win and go to the playoffs, but again, another case study in when it goes for a quarterback, it goes in a hurry.
Mm-hmm.
When it went for Ben Roethlisberger, he was throwing like milk jugs, 8 yards. That was all he could do those last 2 seasons of him being a full-time starter.
Yeah, he got hurt in 2019. He only played 2 games that year. That was the Duck Hodges year, wasn't it?
That was the Duck Hodges year, correct.
God. Yeah, after that, Ben Roethlisberger just completely fell off a cliff.
Yeah.
Like his intended air yards, the average depth of target, just falling off. His last 2 seasons, his last 3, if you include the year he got injured, 2.5 air yards per completion, 3 and 3. His completions on average went 3 yards in the air, man. Like, what are we doing?
No, that 2021 Steeler team, that was the team that got blown out by the Chiefs in the playoffs. That was one of the most unpleasant offensive football teams I've ever seen in my life.
Dude, I don't remember that.
You don't remember them getting smacked by the Chiefs in the wild card round?
Well, I remember
I
remember TJ Watt forced a fumble, picked it up, and ran it back. And it was 7-0 Steelers at the end of the first quarter. And I was stressing.
No, that was early second quarter. It was 7-0 Steelers.
Yeah, I was stressing.
Then it was 35-7 Chiefs midway through the third.
Okay, that note that you just mentioned sounds familiar. I do not remember anything about this game.
You don't remember Chris Collinsworth saying in all sincerity that the the Steelers should pull Roethlisberger from the game so that Chiefs fans could give him a standing ovation in his final NFL game?
Okay, I remember his walk. Didn't he do a lap around the field? No, that was their final home.
That was their final
That was their final home. I think it was Monday Night Football.
Isn't that when he pushed the camera away too in the tunnel?
I don't remember him doing that.
Rodgers did that.
Okay,
that was
Devontae Adams.
Rodgers who did that.
No, it was Ben Roethlisberger's final career game, and Chris Collinsworth, in all sincerity, thought that he was going to get a standing ovation, as though everyone loved Ben Roethlisberger. Newsflash, not true. Nobody outside of Greater Pittsburgh even liked Ben Roethlisberger.
Yeah.
Known great guy.
Yes, known nice person, great with women, respecter of women, and advocate of motorcycle safety, Ben Roethlisberger.
I wish I remembered this game. Mahomes went berserk. 30 of 39 for over 400 yards and 5 touchdowns.
Yeah, man, he was awesome.
I don't remember a single snap of this game.
Byron Pringle caught 2 touchdown passes in a playoff game. The second one was from Travis Kelce.
Wait, is this the game that Nick Allegretti caught a touchdown, or they tried to throw one?
Yes, this is the game where he caught a touchdown. Yes, correct. Great memory.
Did I have a stroke when this game happened? I do not remember a single thing about this football game.
The Steelers fans don't remember this game either.
I remember the next week because the next week was 13 seconds.
Yes, correct.
I remember that quite well. I watched the first half at a Texas Roadhouse.
Dude, Mahomes cooked. Mahomes for 2.5 playoff games before that disastrous second half against the Bengals had a generational 2021 postseason.
Yeah, he did.
Thinking about it, looking back.
Another NFL note real quick. Jamar Chase not at practice today. He has been holding in. He's been at all the Cincinnati practices, but hasn't been participating because he wants a new deal. Today, he decided he had better things to do.
Well, that's not good.
Zach Taylor indicated the situation will remain fluid in a statement issued after practice. Quote, Jamar is day to day. We'll take it one day at a time. Sounds great.
The Bengals will always be the Bengals. Why don't we just continue our 580 Sports Talk headlines today with some more news and notes from around the NFL. Bummer for my fellow LaGrange Park, Illinois native and first-round pick J.J. McCarthy. He has torn his meniscus and is going to miss some time. He will have surgery later this week. It is currently unknown what type of procedure he is going to need. If it is a trim of the meniscus, he'll only be out a few weeks. If they actually have to fully repair the meniscus, he's going to be out for a couple months, or if not, maybe close to the entire season. That would suck. It sure sounds like he was not going to start week 1 anyway. Sounds like it's going to be Darnold's job until Darnold's unplayable or they feel like McCarthy is truly ready. Fine. I don't think they're going to be all that good no matter who's at quarterback for them. That does stink, though. I mean, you feel for the kid that he's not going to be able to be out there.
I'm a lot higher on J.J. McCarthy than I think some people are. I think he's going to be really good. I like him. I think he will have a better NFL career than Drake May. I feel very confident in saying that. And I almost think he'll have a better career than Jaden Daniels. Wow, Spencer disagrees? No way.
He dropped that thing into a bucket on a play he wasn't supposed to have.
Okay, a quick note on all of these three. Well,
Jaden Daniels plays like a crash test dummy. That is my concern about Jaden Daniels.
So we all agree, Caleb Williams, stud.
Yes,
very good. Okay.
Absolutely, all in, buying all the stock.
I think McCarthy has a higher floor than most people do. I don't know that he's a good athlete. He's a really good athlete. I don't know that he has the arm talent to be a truly elite quarterback, but I don't think he's ever going to be crappy. I mean, even Darnold, who you remember this, I was really high on Sam Darnold. But, I mean, you just go watch him at USC. There was always the chance that he'd bottom out because he wasn't careful with the ball. And he's kind of been a bust for a third overall pick. He's gotten paid a lot, but he's kind of been a bust. I've been harsh on Jaden Daniels. I'm kind of worried more than anything he's just going to die on the field because he plays recklessly, and I'm worried about their line. I can't believe everyone is so on the opposite side of the spectrum of Drake May from me. I think Drake May is closer to Caleb Williams than I think he is to JJ McCarthy.
When though? Because he's not there yet. He's far leaps and bounds behind Brissett, according to all the New England media.
We all just voted Jordan Love top 7 in the league. He said for 3 years. Aaron Rodgers might be a top 5 dude all time. He said for 3 years.
Yeah.
Now, the problem is it needs to work. I don't know that it will work in New England.
I don't think so. I think they need an offensive-minded coach for it to work there.
And they have Alex Van Pelt. He worked with Rodgers. He might have even had a year with Favre. He's been around for forever. You just need better infrastructure than I think New England has. That's what I worry about with Drake May. But I'm with you. I'm higher on McCarthy than most. I have concerns, but I'm higher on him than I am on, say, Bo Nix.
Hopefully McCarthy stays healthy because I think that's his job as soon as he's able to get out and win it because there's no upside to the Sam Darnold experience at this point.
One other real quick one. Tyreek Hill said that he is a better football player than Patrick Mahomes.
He's certainly faster.
He told that to Kay Adams. She was like, hey, you got voted number 1 over Mahomes. What do you think about that? And he said, yeah, for sure. I'm him. My argument is, look, come on. You've got to understand. You've got to look at it like this. Pat is great. He's great, obviously, for his team. You feel me? They won 2 back-to-back Super Bowls, yada, yada. They did their thing, right? Now look at me. 2 back-to-back 1,700 seasons, Pro Bowl, All-Pro, this, that, all-decade consistency. All that, man. I'm doing this at 5'8". I'm going to call myself shorter now. 5'7", about 190. Come on, man. A lot of people said I couldn't be a receiver.
That's objectively
Here I am
funny.
doing this. I'm giving all the short kings out there hope. All the short kings across the world hope. You feel me?
Objectively funny. Not correct.
Could not
objectively
be more wrong.
Yes, objectively wrong, but also objectively funny. Where do we file this under? It needed to be said. Yay or nay?
Nay. This did not. Just like everything he says, It did not need to be said. Although saying I'm going to call myself shorter is actually top 5 quote of modern NFL history. That's hilarious.
Just love that this podcast is called It Needed to Be Said. I'm going to start my own podcast. I'm going to call it Let's Talk About Things for Real with Dan.
Spencer, go ahead. I ate up a lot of your
Yeah,
time.
Spencer,
I apologize.
give us a headline.
University of Tennessee announced today that a long-term deal with Travel Center giant Pilot that will preserve the name of Neyland Stadium and Shields Watkins Field while giving the Knoxville-based company prominent signage throughout the stadium and on the playing surface. So basically, they're in this big old sponsorship from Pilot, but they don't have to change the name of the stadium or anything. They're just going to get a big logo probably on the field with their name. So that's pretty cool.
I wonder if this is the future of, like, we're going to see a lot more like college naming rights deals because these colleges are going to need money because of the revenue sharing rules that come into play. And they're going to need some revenue, and selling naming rights to a stadium is one way to generate that revenue. But like, you can't change the name of Neyland Stadium. You can't do that. Your fans will revolt. They don't care about the money. You can't change the name of Neyland Stadium. So this is, I think, a pretty fascinating way to kind of split the baby. You get the money, and yeah, you got to put an ad on the field. That kind of looks dumb, but you can still call it Neyland Stadium, and you get the revenue. So I wonder if this is a trend setting. I wonder if we're going to see a lot of this in college sports.
I mean, what makes more sense for advertising purposes? They say your name 4 times during a broadcast, or every single time you get to the 25-yard line, you see your logo.
You know what else is also good? Not changing the name so people don't grumble about, oh, yeah, it's Pilot Field. Now that's stupid.
I agree.
I still call it Neyland Stadium.
Steelers.
Well,
Acrisure Stadium.
Well, like, that's a little different because they had a corporate name. Now they just have a more clunky
but they
corporate
had a
name.
good corporate name.
They did. It worked.
They did. You're right. You are correct about that. That does it for our 580 Sports Talk headlines. When we come back, Mitch Holthus, the voice of the Kansas City Chief, joins us for a training camp report on 580 Sports Talk from the Kansas Drive to Zero studio. 526 on 580 Sports Talk, and it's time for yet another training camp report with the voice of the Kansas City Chiefs, Mitch Holthus. He is brought to us by Hy-Vee and by Azura Credit Union. Contact Crystal Rippey, Kirsten McCall, or Kristen Ambergy about the credit union advantage in getting your first or next home loan. Mitch, today we're going to hear about Shamari Connor, and I think he is one of the most fascinating members of the Kansas City Chiefs this season. And I think the first thing that jumps out about him is that he really stands out among the defensive backs that have been drafted by the Chiefs. He really fits in, I should say, to the mold of the defensive backs that the Chiefs have favored drafting over the last few years. Tremendous football IQ and versatility. And that makes Steve Spagnuolo happy because that gives him some really fun toys to play with on the back end.
A byproduct of the communication respect between Brett Beach and his scouting staff and the entire coaching staff, including Steve Spagnuolo. They know what Spags wants, and so they look at guys with a different lens than some other teams would. But the one fascinating thing about the National Football League, and we know, is it's a hard salary cap. And when the Chiefs decided to pay Chris Jones and to give him a 5-year, something south of $190 million with $101 million guaranteed, that meant they were not going to be able to sign L'Jarius Sneed. Sneed has been a really good player. Time's great. Look at his AFC Championship performance against the Ravens, which was an all-time performance. But they had to move on. So if you're going to move on, what are you going to do? And so enter Shamari Connor. Now, it's not an apples-to-apples, one-to-one switch, but he will get most of the duties that L'Jarius Sneed used to have, meaning Shamari Connor. Another thing that's interesting, and this validates your assertion about looking and evaluating through the lens of Spagnuolo, if you're Beach and his scouting staff, is what scheme did they play in college? How were they used in college? And for Shamari, it was interesting because at Virginia Tech, they asked him to do the very things that Steve Spagnuolo will ask him to do this year.
Tech definitely helped me a lot doing that because that was really my first time at Tech playing both nickel and safety back and forth for multiple years. So it was great doing that. They definitely prepared me for my time here. So it's been great. My rookie year was awesome. Just learning from the older guys and just taking it all in, taking up what they do and being able to put it into my game.
He fits the mold of a safety corner hybrid, good enough in coverage, good enough in run defense, and really good as a blitzer. And the other part of this is that's why it's not a complete one-to-one apples to apples, is that Steve Spagnuolo, through scheme and personnel, is going to do a variety of different things. Big nickel, small nickel, little dime, big dime. And so it's not just, hey, this is Connor taking over Sneed. He'll do most of the work, but there's other things in place and in planning by Steve Spagnuolo to replace L'Jarius Sneed.
I think the most impressive thing about Connor's rookie season was even though he didn't get a ton of regular season reps, when his number was called in a big moment, he was ready in a big game. And no better example of that than his performance against the Bills in the divisional round, where, according to Pro Football Focus, he was the highest graded defender for the Chiefs in that game. And again, I think that just it speaks obviously to great coaching on the front end to have guys prepared for big moments, but it also speaks to Shamari Connor being able to rise to the occasion in a big playoff game on the road and shows that the sky's really the limit for him.
Yeah, it wasn't too big for him, and that was such a difficult game, considering the circumstances, the opponent, the location, the conditions. But he had built up to that moment all year long by paying attention, working at his skills, learning, soaking it in. You mentioned he's smart, he's a cerebral dude, but he's also willing. He's a big part of this defensive secondary, those 5 guys that I talk about in the 2022 class all the time, but then throw in Shamari Connor in the 2023 class, and he fits right in with the rest of those dudes. I think Shamari's going to have a really good year. The one thing he's probably going to work on, and I don't think Spags will put him in this dilemma a lot, is the deep third passing game. This summer, he was forced to cover a lot on Hollywood Brown and even Rashee Rice deep in patterns. And he'll do some of that, but out of the slot, they'll rotate and roll coverage where they won't get him exposed.
Talking to Mitch Holthus, the voice of the Kansas City Chiefs here on 580 Sports Talk. We talk to Mitch every day during training camp as part of our camp reports, brought to you by Hy-Vee and by Azura Credit Union. Just speaking generally, Mitch, the explosive offense is such a key to success in the NFL now. And knowing that that's an area where Connor can improve, how do you think the rest of that defensive secondary kind of fills in the gaps as he comes along in that regard?
Well, it's going to be work in progress, but you've also got a great base to work from.
Mm-hmm.
The Chiefs set an all-time record last year in the fact that, what did they had 21 times, if you count the Super Bowl, they held their opponents under 28 points. And that's in a day and age where, it's a fireworks show every time you go out there. So I think to answer your question, the fact that you've got such a good base to work from, it's not like you're you're not building the first and second floor. You're remodeling with some different personnel. But I do think there's enough of his background last year and Connor's background, and then overall defensively, of being able by scheme or personnel to pretty much try to neutralize the explosive offense that exists now on the Chiefs' schedule.
How excited is Spags to have about 1 million different guys who can blitz from all over the field? I mean, Snead was obviously great at that. It was kind of the first thing that he built his name on, right? That rookie season before he hurt his shoulder. I mean, he was a dominant blitzer, but you've got Connor who can do it. Also from the secondary, McDuffie can. I think the young safeties can. I know that Leo Chanel can from the linebacker group, among others. I mean, how excited is Spags? I'm sure you've talked to him about this, Mitch, to know that he can bring out as many and to probably develop new crazy exotic blitzes with this group.
Yeah, he's real excited. And just think about that's how Snead started his career. You're correct. But think who else started his career that way? Trent McDuffie. So, and these guys are excellent blitzers. I mentioned DBs when they blitz. They look like a newborn calf. They get so excited. They're terrible blitzers. They get there, but they can't do anything once they're there. And with the DBs and the Chiefs train them this way, they train them like edge rushers. That's why McDuffie is superb in his ability to rush and look at target points and stay under control, but yet be explosive. Connor fits that mold. The biggest news of today, I don't think it got out there much, was the fact that Justin Reed was back in pads today and on the field. And he can do it. So I was talking in another interview today, the enemy quarterbacks, when they look at the Chiefs, they're trying to count, get their protections. This is the mic. 32 is the mic. All right. You work off that lighthouse position and then set up your protections. But you also look at littles and bigs. Where are they at? With the Chiefs, sometimes you can't tell. And you don't know where the pressure is coming from. And everybody that is coming from that unknown pressure can all rush effectively. One thing is to do it in theory and scheme. The other is to execute it and be really good pass rushers if you're not a so-called pass rusher like a George Karlaftis. But the Chiefs have rooms full of them. And yes, Spags is excited. It's why I think this Chiefs defense is going to be more explosive this year, more takeaways, more potential pick sixes, scoop and scores. I think that'll be a big part of the Chiefs' improvement in 2024.
Mitch Holthus, our guest, the voice of the Kansas City Chiefs. It's a training camp report brought to us by Hy-Vee and by Azura Credit Union. One more question for you, Mitch. We talk a lot about Dave Merritt, the defensive backs coach for this team, and the impact that he's had on helping to mold these young defensive backs and create one of the league's best secondaries. What is it about Dave Merritt that makes him such an effective assistant coach with these young players?
Let's jump back up to Spags, because that's where I'm going to start with this answer. And that is, Spags is such an effective teacher. Now, I've mentioned to you before, defense, Spags has his own subculture within the framework of the team. And football teams, I don't care if they're Seaman or Washburn Rural, Silver Lake or Rossville, they can fracture many times if you've got guys going, not playing two ways, that offense versus defense is the biggest way it can fracture. All right. Now, Spags is such an excellent teacher, and he connects with his players beyond just a transactional relationship. Spags also coaches his coaches. Well, guess who's a direct reflection of that? And that is Dave Merritt. Dave Merritt has his own subculture within the subculture, and it's a very good one with those defensive backs. We've just laid them all out here over the last several minutes. Dave also has an innate ability to connect with his players on a personal basis where he teaches and he can tutor. And it's not just the technique and being a transactional coach, but it's also being a relational coach. And that's what Spags does so well. And honestly, Dave does it the same. And so it just permeates throughout this whole team, especially through the defense.
Mitch Holthus, the voice of the Kansas City Chiefs, joining us for a daily training camp report brought to us by Hy-Vee and by Azure Credit Union. Mitch, who do we get to hear from tomorrow?
The most underrated player on this whole team.
Ooh, I like it.
91 guys, the most underrated player, not only on just his side of the ball, but on this entire team. And no fan of the Chiefs Kingdom, I think, fully appreciates the dude. We will give him some love tomorrow.
Looking very much forward to that. Mitch Holthus, the voice of the Chiefs. Thanks for the time, Mitch. We'll talk tomorrow.
You got it, bro. Thanks.
That is Mitch Holthus. Who do we think he's talking about, guys?
Normally, I would have said, oh, he's talking about Drew Tranquil, but we've already heard from Drew Tranquil.
I think it's Mike Dana.
Oh, yeah, you're probably right.
Yeah.
I think that's a good one.
I think it's Mike Dana. I could be wrong. I mean, Mitch has a way of surprising us. But we'll look forward to finding out all together when we speak with Mitch tomorrow. Same time here on 580 Sports Talk. We'll take a break, come back, preview Royals Twins tonight, game 2 of their 3-game series. Royals need to bounce back. They'll try to get it behind Seth Lugo. We'll talk about it next from the Kansas Drive to Zero studio here on 580 Sports Talk. 541 on 580 Sports Talk. Round and third, heading for home on this Tuesday edition of the show. Dan, Brendan, Spencer, Trenton. Royals Twins tonight. Game 2 of their 3-game series at Target Field. It was amazing how quick that game went to the crapper last night. Like,
yeah,
5 outs in, I thought we were going to see a Brady Singer masterclass. And then 6 batters later, it was a disaster class. And then after that, he was fine. Like, he just resumed normal service after like a 6-batter glitch. Damnedest thing. Struck out 9 guys in 5 innings.
Yeah, that just happens sometimes, man. That's baseball. Unfortunately, that's just one of those it's baseball things.
That's the way baseball goes.
The full-on conundrum of it is the worst good pitcher and the best bad pitcher.
Exactly.
And the one game wrapped into one game.
We keep going back to that. My eternal question about Brady Singer, is he the best bad pitcher in the American League, or is he the worst good pitcher in the American League? And I don't have any idea.
I think he's probably the worst good pitcher. I think I'm on that side of the fence.
Like, he is the, like I said, Cleveland. They're four games up, 4.5 now up on the Royals after last night, or 5 games up. Yeah, you're right. 5 games up on the Royals after last night. They would love a third starter as good as Brady Singer. They would love a number 2 starter as good as Brady Singer right now. Like, they really would. Like, we want to be careful not to take the guy for granted. He's taken every turn except for the one he got pushed back due to illness. But, like, he's made 24 starts this year. Same number as Lugo and Reagan's. He's misses bats. He doesn't walk guys. Last night accepted, doesn't give up a ton of home runs. Like, genuinely solid big league starting pitcher. When he hits free agency, he's going to make like 15 to 18 million a year, and he's going to deserve it. Like, that's the going rate for a guy like him. And whoever pays him, whether it's the Royals or somebody else, is going to just be very frustrated with nights like last night, because they happen. They happen with Brady Singer, because he does get at his worst too predictable, particularly the left-handed batters. You have to execute. He has to execute so well against left-handers to get them out 2-3 times through an order. And when he doesn't, when he misses his spot with that slider, it goes a really long way. Willie Castro hit that ball to the moon.
Which, wow, lo and behold, it's not great when you only are comfortable throwing 2 pitches.
Yeah.
And if one's not clicking, it's going to be a disaster because you don't have an escape hatch.
It is not. It is decidedly not what you want.
It's like talking about quarterbacks and analyzing how good is a quarterback. I think a good way to measure that is to find out, or to discuss, debate, to figure out what is their problem solving like. Patrick Mahomes is the ultimate problem solver because he has all the skills and the smarts and the strength that you need to get out of pretty much any jam, unless he's just kind of messing around. Mm-hmm. But a guy, CJ Stroud, has a bunch of answers. I think Jordan Love is in that camp. He's got a bunch of answers. I think you've got a lot of the Josh Allen has answers. Guys who have never quite gotten there. Kirk Cousins puts up great numbers and has had some really good stretches in his career. But what happens when what hits the fan? What happens when you go up against a team that gets interior pressure? What happens when you get into a game where the other team is not going to play according to script because the season is on the line? Has never had an answer for that. Jared Goff has been in that camp before, although he's been really good the last couple seasons. That is a deciding factor for a lot of quarterbacks. I think it's the same thing when you're talking about a pitcher here. Okay, you don't have it. Your grip's off. It's sweaty. You put on too much sunscreen for a day game, whatever it is. Like, you don't have it with the slider in Brady Singer's case, or any given pitch. Maybe your normal top 2 pitches just aren't clicking. What are you going to do to get out of it? What are you going to do to counter back? They've already countered you. So what are you going to do to then fight back? What's your adjustment going to be? Last year, there was a game, and it's a slightly different circumstance because the Mariners were decent and whoever they were playing sucked. Luis Castillo at one point threw 44 consecutive fastballs in a game.
I remember that.
I'm not going to lie. I think it's the White Sox.
It might have been Chicago. You're right. It definitely was Chicago. And he just said, hey, look, it's working. They can't hit it, and I'm just going to throw it. And it worked. And he had it going. He won the game. I'm not saying I want Brady Singer to go out tonight and throw 44 consecutive fastballs, but what I am saying is you've got to be able to adjust on the fly. And I trust at least 3 other dudes. Well, not at least. I trust 3 other dudes in this rotation right now to get out of those sort of situations and to be able to make those adjustments more than I trust that for Brady Singer. Is that his fault? partially, not entirely, but it is what it is.
The list of teams that have a better number 3 starter right now in the American League playoff race is Seattle. That's the list. Like, you want to, like, Minnesota's number 3 right now is Simeon Woods Richardson. He's having a really nice year, but it's very comparable to the year that Singer is having. Like, you wouldn't definitively say that Woods Richardson is better than Brady Singer. Boston certainly doesn't have a number 3 as good. New York, Singer would be maybe their best guy. Like, performance-wise, he would be as good as anybody they've got.
Yeah.
You know, like Luis Gil's the only guy who's outpitched him. Baltimore's got a bunch of injuries. Like, maybe Zach Eflin's better. Maybe. I don't know. Probably about the same kind of guy. Better than anybody Houston's got after their first 2 guys. So
is it fair to say this makes it more frustrating? Like,
I don't know that that's fair. That might be unfair, honestly.
And fine. I just like, I know you can. How do I want to phrase this without being too harsh? Because I don't want to be, because he has had a good season and he's won. He's been on the winning side of 8 games, and I don't know what the Royals' record is in games he starts, but I don't want to be too harsh. But I feel like I know you can avoid those specific moments. I know you have the stuff to do it. I want to get it out of you. I feel like I feel like my teachers in high school. Like, why do you have this grade? Why do you have a 71 in my class when you should have a 91? Why are you like this? That's how I feel with Brady Singer.
It's not that he's got like an 85.
He's got like an 85, but you should be in the National Honor Society.
Yes. Like, you're not applying yourself.
Like, you should be in my advanced class. Like, you're doing really well, but you're still in class with like the kid who eats his own hair.
Right.
Like, come on.
14 and 10. The Royals are 14 and 10 when Brady Singer toes the slab. He, as a person, individually, is 8-8 now after the loss last night.
Like, he's giving you a chance to win more often than he's not. Yeah. He really and truly is. And that's the measure of a good starting pitcher. When they walk off the mound, do they give you a chance to win? And Singer does that more often than not. But it's the inability to be consistent against left-handed hitters, to find anything to keep them off balance, other than just saying, well, I have to really execute at a high level to my slider has to be here and my sinker has to be this. And if it's not that, then lefties are going to tune me like a piano. Like you said, no plan B. And that's the frustrating thing with Brady Singer. Tonight, it's Seth Lugo on the mound for the Royals.
You know what the Royals record is when Seth Lugo starts?
I do not.
21-4.
It's not that good.
14 and 10. So the Royals are winning the same rate when Seth Lugo toes the slab as Brady Singer. I'm gonna check Cole Reagans while you give him the stats, Dan.
2 good starts for Seth Lugo against the Twins this season. 6 innings, a shutout ball back on March 30th. 6 innings, a 1-run ball in Minnesota back on May 29th. That was the only game the Royals won in that 4-game series. Unfortunately, since the calendar slipped to July, Lugo has alternated quality start with not quality start. 6 quality innings in Colorado, 5 ugly ones in Boston before the All-Star break. The complete game against the White Sox at home, 6 runs allowed to the Cubs the next start out. 8 innings, a 1-run ball against Detroit. Boston hit him around again at home. And some of that was the bullpen came in behind him and made a bigger mess and didn't help him clean up. But still, he only went 5 1/3 innings. So if it's alternating good start and not so good start, if that trend continues, he should be good tonight against a team that he's already fared pretty well against so far this season. We mentioned Daniel Zebulon Zebby Matthews, the 24-year-old right-hander who will be making his major league debut. The Royals lineup tonight better come ready to swing the bat, because Zebby Matthews is not going to nibble around the strike zone. He's coming right after you. He's walked 22 guys in over 200 career minor league innings. That is a control specialist. He is going to throw you strikes. You better come ready to swing the bat.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. He's got decent stuff. He's not going to walk a whole lot of guys. Tell me if I'm wrong here. I feel like that matches up well for the Royals. He might have a great game, and I'm not saying he can't, but they feel like a team that's built to attack guys who are going to give them pitches to hit.
They are an aggressive team, and they make a lot of contact. And if they're going to make contact on pitches in the strike zone, then, they could potentially make it a rough debut for Zebby. Here's the lineup for the Royals. Trent has thoughts. Michael Massey's back at second base leading off tonight, followed by Bobby Witt Jr. in his usual spot. Vinny Pasquantino at first. Salvi's catching tonight. MJ Melendez is in left field. He swung the bat better since coming off the injured list. Freddie Fermin is the DH. Adam Frazier is batting 7th in right field. Trenton.
After the
floor is
world's
yours.
most palpable sigh.
Wow.
Look,
What are we doing here?
we talked about it yesterday.
He's the worst guy out of the platoon option to hit against right-hand pitchers this year, and I don't care that he's left-handed. Like what? He's like Chris Getz in 2013. When it's like, why are we playing Chris Getz? Like, what are we doing? This is the biggest series of the game, and we have Adam Frazier starting back-to-back nights. Like,
Hey, what Chris wants, Chris gets.
yeah, that's why they're 29 and 91. So,
Yeah, I hope he wants a new job because he's going to have to go get one when the White Sox axe him after this train wreck of a year.
No, they're not going to fire 2 front office people, manager and GM.
That would cost a lot of money. It's true.
No way.
Michael Garcia is at third base. Kyle Isbell, who had a big night last night, is in center, batting 9th, backing Seth Lugo tonight. Pre-game coverage right when we get off the air, 6 o'clock, top of the hour, 6:40, first pitch in Minneapolis. We'll take a fun final break here on 580 Sports Talk. Come back with a final word after this. Time for the final word on 580 Sports Talk. Spencer Dupuis in the leadoff spot.
Yeah, we're leading off this final word with the Royals. Obviously, it was a tough game last night for them, but showed a little offense early. And Brady Singer, we just talked about, he's going to have one of those outings. And I think tonight you got Seth Lugo, and Seth Lugo had one of those outings the last time. Trend would say he's going to have a better outing tonight, and I think he will. And I think we're going to be talking about a Royals W tomorrow. I guess not necessarily. We'll be talking about 2 Royals W's as they win the series tomorrow.
I love the optimism. Royals do have a day game tomorrow, about which more in a second. Brendan Orzinski, your final word.
Yeah, final word for me today regarding the Chiefs and how this roster is going to shake out. We went through Nate Taylor of The Athletic and his 53-man roster projection after preseason game 1. And I am certainly open to the idea of adding some extra beef and some extra talent, if possible, on the defensive line. What that looks like, great question. Almost makes you think it would have to be more of a trade than a free agent signing at this point. I don't know who would be out there who would actually be better than anyone you're already running out there. But frankly, there aren't that many spots on this team where you can get an obvious upgrade. And not that Karlaftis or Dana or FAU or any of those guys are bad. But I think if you could add a little more pass rush talent, who is going to complain about that? So I am at least open to exploring it. And I don't think Nate would have brought it up if he hadn't at least heard something about the Chiefs being interested.
Final word for me, I am not in any way concerned about K-State's offense this coming season. I think they're going to rock the Casbah. I think Avery Johnson is going to be super. I think that DJ Giddens is going to put up another great season. I like the wide receiver talent better than I've liked it at K-State for many, many years. Defense was where I maybe had a little bit of a question coming into this season. Who are the playmakers going to be? Who's going to emerge? And I still think they need to figure out who that's going to be at the defensive end position. But the more I hear Joe Klanderman talk, the more I like the communication, the connectivity, and the experience of the back of this defense, the linebackers and the defensive backs. And I think there are going to be some real playmakers on that end. I think Austin Moore will be terrific. I think the Topeka Hayden product, Desmond Purnell will have another great year. I think Marquise Siegel has a much better second season with K-State. And I'm starting to be more and more bullish on that defense. And that's saying something coming from somebody who's already picked them to win the Big 12 on this here program. That'll do it for 580 Sports Talk today. We are coming on after Royals baseball tomorrow. Royals play tonight, 6:40 first pitch. They've got a 12:10 first pitch on getaway day tomorrow in Minneapolis. We will be with you at 3 o'clock to break down both Royals games, talk plenty of Chiefs as well. For Trent and Brendan and Spencer, I'm Dan. We'll talk to you tomorrow at 3 on 580 Sports Talk.